Chapter 1337. On the other hand, when the large whale falls formed the island whale embryos, more than 80% of the energy in the island whale flesh had been consumed. Otherwise, 13 island whale embryos would not have formed. Putting aside whether ordinary small whale falls could form island whale embryos. Even if they could, the number would not exceed 2. The mother of Bloodbath had already stored 13 island whale embryos into the diamond phase storage box for Lin Yuan to prevent them from competing with Red Thorn for nutrients. At the same time, it told Red Thorn how to use the nibbling vines to extract the island whale brain oil through the island whale's eyes. At that moment, a clear and distant whale cry came from near the 3 island whale bodies covered in nibbling vines. This whale cry made Lin Yuan's eyes shrink. He was keenly aware that the whale cry was not through his ears but directly in his soul. The 13 island whale embryos had been stored in the diamond phase storage box by the mother of Bloodbath and could no longer make a whale cry. These 3 10,000-meter-long island whales were dead, and half of their bodies had been eaten by Red Thorn, so they could not make a sound. If he could hear the whale cry, it meant that there was a whale species Fae here. Moreover, this whale species Fae was likely to be a soul-type existence. This made Lin Yuan think of a legend he had seen in the Radiant Moon Palace's Hidden Moon Pavilion not long ago. Lin Yuan was very interested in this legend, so he had specially asked his master, the Moon Empress, in the knowledge Q&A after hearing about it. The Moon Empress said that this legend came from the sea race. It was said that only the elemental mermaids in the deep-sea legend could feel the sorrow of the whale's vitality in a large whale fall. Seeing the thought-soul whale transformed from the whale's souls, the Moon Empress who had told Lin Yuan about the legend had clearly stated that it could not be verified. After all, the elemental mermaids living in the deep ocean tides had become a legend. It was too ridiculous to use a legend as an example to verify the legend. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw that Lu Jia and the mother of Bloodbath's expressions did not change at all, which meant that they did not hear the whale cry that directly affected their souls. Thinking of the legend, Lin Yuan suddenly discovered a problem. The legend said that the elemental mermaids could feel the sorrow of the whale's vitality and see the thought-soul whale transformed from the whale's souls. After fusing with blue, his body would become flowing water. It looked exactly like the form of an elemental mermaid. Could it be that Lu Jia and the mother of Bloodbath couldn't hear that whale cry, but he could hear that it was related to blue jade? If that was the case, then things would be interesting. After the sacred source life form, the water of origin had died, the Moon Empress had created a special Fae for the Moon Empress. It wasn't an elemental mermaid. Before the source water turned into a sacred source life form, it would at least be an apostle whose power of faith in the water world was below average. In that case, the legendary elemental mermaid should have come from the water world. It was most likely a dimensional life form that had escaped from the water world dimensional rift. If this was the truth, it was no wonder that the elemental mermaid would disappear and become history. There was no source energy in the origin world, only spiritual energy. Dimensional creatures couldn't absorb spirit chi in the main world, so they couldn't increase their strength without being replenished by source energy. If he couldn't increase his strength, his lifespan wouldn't increase. Even elemental life forms with long lifespans would eventually die one day. He used his blood to form a contract with Bailon, and their bloodlines were connected. If blue jade was really a sacred source life form transformed from an elemental mermaid apostle, then wouldn't his fusion with blue jade mean that he had become a legend of the sea race? In order to confirm this, Lin Yuan immediately used the faith possession skill to fuse with blue jade. Lin Yuan originally thought that he would become a mermaid when he fused with blue jade, just like when he fused with it on land. However, the changes in his body were completely different from what he had imagined. The moment Lin Yuan used the faith possession skill to fuse with blue jade, whether it was Lu Jia who was beside Lin Yuan or the mother of Bloodbath, who was teaching Red Thorn how to extract the island whale brain oil in the deep sea, they all felt that the calm water at the bottom of the sea suddenly flowed. The cool waves instantly flowed in the sea, giving people a refreshing and comfortable feeling. The plankton and phytoplankton that hadn't been devoured by the red flowers in time were once again gathered into a green skirt under the flowing waves. With Lin Yuan as the origin, a smear of blue that couldn't be defined by the world suddenly bloomed. This smear of blue was like the soul of the water, and the blue overflowed into the water, causing the water to ripple with a moving melody. Lin Yuan's body became transparent under the contrast of this ultimate blue, and a pair of fishtails that were at least twice as long as on land set off thousands of tides in the sea. They sent the blue water to even further waters. Lin Yuan's eyes turned from black to deep blue as though he could see through the shackles of the deep sea. His deep blue eyes flashed with luster, like the bright and charming Milky Way in the sky. The moment Lin Yuan's long hair turned into a tide, the tide weaved the entire water into a blue palace. The entire sea sang together with a myriad of sounds. The waves of the deep sea were like the wind in the sky, gently caressing Lin Yuan's body, telling of intimacy. At that moment, Lin Yuan could clearly feel all the water elements in the water region celebrating. The moment Lin Yuan transformed, Lu Jia, the mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn all looked at him. With just a glance, a fae, a human, and a fairy had all fallen. At that moment, all the beauty in the world could be defined by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan himself had also suffered quite a shock. It turned out that when he used Faith's possession and blue fusion, he had never been in a complete state. Only when he was in the water and possessed by his faith could he transform into his true form. Lin Yuan felt that his current appearance should be no different from the legendary elemental merfolk. Just as Lin Yuan was about to head to the bottom of the sea to investigate the source of the whale cry that directly affected the soul sounded again. Immediately after, a silver-white small whale with a slender horn on its head and a 2-meter-long body emerged from the bottom of the sea. This small whale didn't have a physical body and was formed entirely by the condensation of soul power. After the small whale appeared, it headed straight for Lin Yuan, and a series of whale-like cries came from its mouth. When it saw Lin Yuan, it was as though it had seen its dependents and family. When Lu Jia, the mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn saw this small whale suddenly rushing toward Lin Yuan, their expressions turned serious and they prepared to attack it. Lin Yuan hurriedly said, "Don't attack. Don't do anything. You won't hurt me." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jia, the mother of Bloodbath, and Red Thorn stopped attacking. However, the mother of Bloodbath and Red Thorn clearly didn't have the mind to care about the large whale fall. They came to Lin Yuan's side and stood between him and the silver-white small whale. When the small whale saw that someone was blocking it, it couldn't help but feel a little timid. However, it didn't stop approaching Lin Yuan. Chapter 1338. Suddenly, the small whale's body vanished like a bubble, and the bubble condensed behind Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan turned around and his eyes met the small whale's. The small whale expressed its joy through its cry in Lin Yuan's soul. If the legend was true, then this whale species Fae, which was obviously a soul type, should be the Remembrance Soul Whale. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate the small white one-horned whale. Fae name: Remembrance Soul Whale, Fae species, Soul Whale/Horned Whale, Fae grade, Elite 6 out of 10. Fae type: Soul, Fae quality. Elite abilities: Frowny Face, Soul Not. When facing a dead target's body, sing a whale cry to condense a small number of souls hidden in the target's body and awaken the target's soul. If the target has enough souls, it will awaken the soul's memories when it was alive. Whale illusion. When facing an attack, the body will turn into soul energy and scatter in all directions to avoid any form of attack. When it is seriously injured, the soul will attach to the closest object. When escaping danger, the soul attached to the object can slowly awaken and condense into the main body. After checking, Lin Yuan found that this small whale was indeed called the Remembrance Soul Whale. This Remembrance Soul Whale was formed when the souls of 100 giant whales reached the end of their lifespans. Its strength was at Elite 6/Elite. Upon seeing the Remembrance Soul Whale's ability, Lin Yuan could not help but gasp. This small whale was indeed a Fae formed from the souls of 100 giant whales, including 3 island whales. Its normal ability was simply godly. Since ancient times, no matter who reached the end of their lifespan or was killed by external forces, they had to face death. It was an iron law of nature that the dead could not be resurrected. However, the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, allowed it to collect the remnant souls from dead Faes. When enough souls were collected, it could even let the souls recall their memories when they were alive. It could be said that Soul Not allowed the dead and the living to have a chance to talk. It allowed the living to retain important people in another way. As the souls of the dead recalled their memories, the living could also communicate with the dead through their souls. This ability was equivalent to turning a lifetime of emotions into an eternal bond. Upon seeing the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, Lin Yuan decided to keep it by his side no matter what. It just so happened that this Remembrance Soul Whale was a support-type Fae. Based on his talent, Lin Yuan could contract the Thought Soul Whale. Just now, when the Remembrance Whale had appeared before him, it had transformed into a bubble and then condensed again. It had most likely used the elite skill Whale Fantasy. The Whale Illusion skill provided the Remembrance Spirit Whale with an extremely strong ability to avoid damage. This also allowed the Psychic Whale to escape by attaching itself to other objects when it was heavily injured. Finally, it could slowly recover its soul and condense its body. Since he could contract this Remembrance Soul Whale, he needed to consider it. Should I use my spiritual energy to contract the Thought Soul Whale or Morbius exclusive skill Spirit Lock Spatial Zone? Morbius Silver Spirit Lock Fae would be the Soul Remembrance Whale. If he used his spiritual energy to contract the Silver 6/Elite Thought Soul Whale, his remaining spiritual energy would be exhausted. If he encountered any other Faes in the future, he could only stare at them. If he used Morbius exclusive skill Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to Spirit Lock this Remembrance Soul Whale, according to the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's rules, Morbius could Spirit Lock Faes that were lower than its grade. Morbius could Spirit Lock on Faes that were lower than its own grade, which meant that all Faes below Silver X could be Spirit Locked. The Remembrance Soul Whale happened to be within Morbius Spirit Lock range. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan decided to let the Remembrance Soul Whale become Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's Silver Spirit Lock. This was because Lin Yuan valued the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, and not its elite ability, Whale Fantasy. If he could Spirit Lock the Remembrance Soul Whale, its normal ability Soul Not could be retained. It would not affect Lin Yuan's expectations of the Remembrance Soul Whale, and it could also give Lin Yuan a chance to choose when facing other Faes in the future. With that thought, Lin Yuan extended his palm toward the Remembrance Soul Whale. Lin Yuan's palm covered the Remembrance Soul Whale's horn and communicated with it through their souls. Little fellow, I feel that you quite like me. How about following me in the future? As a Fae formed from the souls of 100 giant whales, the Remembrance Soul Whale had extremely high intelligence. Lin Yuan planned to ask the Remembrance Soul Whale's opinion before the contract as a form of respect for it. Of course, the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability Soul Not was very important. Lin Yuan also wanted to use Spirit Lock on the Remembrance Soul Whale, but the method he would use would be different. Lin Yuan had just experienced the Mother of Bloodbath's life and death moment and had almost been separated by life and death. He had deeply experienced the sorrow and despair when someone important to him left him. With the Remembrance Soul Whale, even if someone close to him really died, Lin Yuan could still use the Remembrance Soul Whale's normal ability, Soul Not, to keep someone close to him by his side. When the Remembrance Soul Whale heard Lin Yuan's words, it immediately waved its tail happily and pounced toward him. When it pounced over, the Remembrance Soul Whale was afraid that the horn on its head would hit Lin Yuan, so it simply raised its head. It used its belly to collide with Lin Yuan's, as if to say that Lin Yuan had to take it with him wherever he went. After receiving the Remembrance Soul Whale's response, Lin Yuan used Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to Spirit Lock on the Remembrance Soul Whale. Soon, the Remembrance Soul Whale's Spirit Lock was successful. Now the Soul Whale had become Lin Yuan's fourth Spirit Locked Fae. The moment he used Spirit Lock on the Soul Remembrance Whale, he knew that the Soul Remembrance Whale's great advancement relied on pure Spirit Chi and the Soul Energy in the Spirit-type spiritual ingredients. Pure Spirit Chi was nothing to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan did not have many Soul-type spiritual ingredients. The only thing he had was the cold snow pine incense which he had burned with tree sap. The frigid snow rosin could heal soul wounds. Although he could rely on Jifeng's Fae to command the water lily to heal his injured soul at any time, there was no harm in keeping the cold cedar rosin in reserve. After all, it was impossible for Jifeng to be by his side all the time. Island whale brain oil was an extremely high-quality soul spirit material. After Red Thorn dug out the island whale brain oil from the 3 island whale skulls, it would be perfect for the Remembrance Soul Whale to use the island whale brain oil to increase its strength. The Mother of Bloodbath, Wuxia, and Red Thorn saw that not only did the small whale not harbor any hostility toward Lin Yuan, but Lin Yuan had also taken it as a Fae. Everyone was relieved. The Mother of Bloodbath brought Red Thorn back to the bottom of the sea, and Red Thorn continued to command the nibbling vines to extract the brain oil from the island whale's skulls. The mother of Bloodbath took out a diamond fey storage box and stored the whale bones that the nibbling vines could not eat into it one by one. Lin Yuan's purpose in seizing this large whale fall was to hatch the floating island whale as soon as possible. These white jade-like whale bones were the key to increasing the floating island whale's hatching speed. Chapter 1339. In a large whale fall, the souls of the dead whales could fuse together and give birth to a strange creature like the soul whale. More than 80% of the energy in the giant whale's flesh would transform into the island whale embryo. Although Red Thorn had created such a huge scene at the bottom of the sea, in reality, Red Thorn had only absorbed less than 20% of the energy from the giant whale's body. As for the enormous spiritual energy and pure water elemental energy in the whale's body, they were all stored in the whale's marrow within the whale's jade-like skeleton. It would take the creatures at the bottom of the sea tens of years to decompose the whale's bones. This was also the reason why the island whale embryos were formed at the beginning of the large whale fall, but they often only hatched after the large whale fall ended. Of course, the island whale embryos formed in a large whale fall were not guaranteed to hatch. In fact, after a large whale hunt involving 3 island whales ended, it would be good if 2 island whales hatched. And in those medium-sized whale falls, even if they were lucky enough to give birth to island whale embryos, they would not be able to survive. In the end, when the medium-sized whale fall ended, the island whale embryo would not hatch. This was because the amount of pure spiritual energy and pure water element energy required for the island whale embryos to hatch was too great. Therefore, in order to hatch, every island whale embryo would start a fierce competition with its companions that were born at the same time. Every island whale embryo would try its best to practice its devouring ability from the moment it appeared. In order to be able to break the whale bone during the final stage of the large whale fall, the whale bone had been chewed on by various underwater creatures for decades. He absorbed all the pure water energy and spiritual energy in the whale marrow into his own body, crushing his companions. Of course, the island whale embryos that had yet to hatch were not completely hopeless. The concentration of spirit energy and water elemental energy at the bottom of the sea was not low in the first place. After accumulating for a long time, the island whale embryo would eventually absorb enough water elemental energy and spirit energy. Any creature in the sea would subconsciously protect the island whale. When the Sea King and the Sea Emperor discovered unhatched island whale eggshells, they would often pay from their own pockets to help the island whale hatch from its embryo. However, there was still no lack of island whale embryos that no one had discovered at the bottom of the sea. If the seabed happened to have an exceptionally hard rock layer, the spiritual chi would be able to penetrate very slowly. The island whale embryos had existed for thousands of years, and there were many cases where the embryos didn't hatch until the life aura in the embryos ended. What Lin Yuan wanted now was the whale marrow in these giant whales' bones. In addition to the whale marrow hidden within the whale bone, the whale bone itself was also a treasure. The price of the whale bone in the Radiance Federation's luxury goods market was similar to completely jade-textured wood. Large pieces of whale bone furniture, ornaments, and accessories were all rare items. Could fetch an extremely high price in an auction. Top forces had an extremely high demand for furniture, ornaments, and other items made of whale bones. To a certain extent, the whale bone produced from the body of a deep-sea giant whale was more prominent than completely jade-textured wood. After Red Thorn dug out the brain oil from the skull of the first island whale, it personally called for 3 specialized flowers. It carefully watched the specialized flower use its gill-like fin to hold the island whale brain oil and escort it to Lin Yuan. After taking the island whale brain oil, he stretched out his fingers and gently rubbed Red Thorn's vine-like hair. He then broke off a fingernail-sized piece from the watermelon-sized island whale brain oil and handed it to the Remembrance Soul Whale. When the Remembrance Soul Whale saw what Lin Yuan handed over, it gently touched it with its mouth and happily swallowed this small piece of island whale brain oil. While the Remembrance Soul Whale swallowed the island whale brain oil, Lin Yuan attached his hand to the Remembrance Soul Whale's head. He circulated his spiritual power and injected pure spirit chi into the Remembrance Soul Whale's body through his left hand. Under the nurturing of the island whale brain oil and pure spirit chi, the Elite 6/Elite Remembrance Soul Whale's strength and quality rapidly increased like a roller coaster. Soon, the Remembrance Soul Whale's grade reached Elite X, but Lin Yuan did not let the Remembrance Soul Whale evolve to bronze. Instead, he raised the soul whale's grade from excellent to epic. Then Lin Yuan let the remembrance soul whale evolve with anticipation. For phase like Morbius spirit lock, they were unable to obtain new abilities when they evolved. They could still only use normal abilities. This made the phase more dependent on exclusive skills to upgrade their normal abilities. After the remembrance soul whale evolved to bronze, 3 exclusive skills appeared. Lin Yuan needed to choose the most suitable exclusive skill for the remembrance soul whale's normal ability, Soul Knot. The remembrance soul whale's first exclusive skill was soul energy detection. Soul energy detection. Increase the remembrance soul whale's soul detection range and speed up the collection of souls within the range. Upon seeing the first exclusive skill, Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. It could be said that the soul energy detection allowed the remembrance soul whale to collect souls more easily. This allowed the remembrance soul whale to be more confident in relying on soul not to awaken the soul's memories. As for speeding up the collection of souls, Lin Yuan felt that it was not a particularly necessary function. It did not take much time to collect souls, and the little time saved by speeding up the collection of souls was negligible. In short, the remembrance soul whale's first exclusive skill, Soul Knot, was suitable for the remembrance soul whale. Even if the next 2 exclusive skills were worse, Lin Yuan would still have a choice. Previously, when Lin Yuan had enhanced phase, he would enhance each phase to Elite X/Epic. However, it was not rare for Lin Yuan to see phase with 3 exclusive skills when they evolved to bronze, and all 3 exclusive skills were useless. Now, the remembrance soul whale's first exclusive skill allowed Lin Yuan to be at ease. Lin Yuan then checked the remembrance soul whale's second exclusive skill, which was Soul Gather Satiation. Soul Gather Satiation. By collecting souls and digesting them into its own nutrients, it can quickly increase its strength and quality. During a battle, it can spit out the collected souls and deal a blow to the target's soul based on the strength of the collected souls. Upon seeing this exclusive skill, Lin Yuan frowned. The exclusive skill, Soul Gathering Satiation, greatly increased the speed at which the remembrance whale leveled up. It allowed the remembrance whale to increase its strength rapidly without consuming any soul-type spiritual ingredients. Although the exclusive skill could also be used with the remembrance soul whale's normal ability, Soul Knot, such a combination was contrary to Lin Yuan's purpose. No matter what, Lin Yuan would not let the remembrance soul whale use the souls of people it cared about as materials to increase its strength, let alone use the souls of people it cared about as weapons. Lin Yuan didn't even think about it and gave up on the second exclusive skill that had appeared. He continued to look at the third exclusive skill. Chapter 1340. The moment he saw the third exclusive skill, Lin Yuan was stunned. Then he could not help but laugh heartily. Lin Yuan's laughter accelerated the speed of the blue ocean current shuttling through the sea, matching with the amber sunlight reflected from the sea surface. It gave the deep ocean a vast sense of brilliance. The flow of the tide let out a pleasant sound of nature, and the entire sea region was happy with Lin Yuan's joy. What made Lin Yuan so happy was the third exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth. Burning Soul Rebirth. Through the consumption of spiritual materials filled with soul energy, the soul energy within the spiritual materials is guided into the condensed soul, using the soul energy to repair the broken soul as much as possible, making the broken soul whole. It could be said that with the third exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, Lin Yuan's first exclusive skill, Soul Energy Detection, could only be regarded as bullshit. Burning Soul Rebirth used the soul energy extracted from soul-type spiritual materials to repair the broken soul. As long as there were enough soul-type spiritual materials, it could even repair the broken soul. This ability allowed the thought soul whale to rely on its normal ability, Soul Knot, to awaken the soul's memories before death with 100% certainty. This allowed Lin Yuan to communicate smoothly with the people he cared about through the soul. It was much better to communicate with a soul that had memories of its previous life than with a cold and emotionless soul. When a life form died, its soul would overflow in a short time, and the soul retained in the physical body was very limited. If the soul could be easily preserved in the physical body, the thought soul whale would not appear in a large whale fall. It could be said that after a spirit chi professional died, it was a kind of thought to collect enough soul. Compared to the fragile soul of a spirit chi professional, the soul of a high star fae was easier to collect. No matter how long the high star fae's physical body was destroyed, as long as the law crystal, world crystal, or immortal body in the high star phase body was still there. The phase soul could be collected from the law crystal, world crystal and immortal body. The exclusive skill Burning Soul Rebirth perfected the thought soul whale's normal ability Soul Knot. It allowed Soul Knot to truly form an eternal bond between the dead and the living. Although Burning Soul Rebirth was powerful, it could not be said that the exclusive skill Burning Soul Rebirth was perfect. The premise for Burning Soul Rebirth to be effective was to have enough soul-type spiritual materials. Soul-type spiritual materials were the most expensive among all spiritual materials, and even the most ordinary ones were enough to be auctioned in private. Without the soul-type spiritual ingredient exclusive skill, Burning Soul Rebirth, he could only be considered a vase that looked good but was useless. However, this problem for most people was considered a piece of cake for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had the island whale brain oil. The quality of the island whale brain oil would increase with the age of the island whale. It could be said that the island whale brain oil collected from the bodies of large island whales was of the best quality. Lin Yuan had just obtained a watermelon-sized island whale brain oil, and he would be able to obtain 2 more. Therefore Lin Yuan had no shortage of soul-type spiritual ingredients. Moreover, after contracting the thought soul whale, he would collect as many soul-type spiritual ingredients as possible just in case. In the future Lin Yuan would not have fewer soul-type spiritual ingredients, but he would have more and more of them. He did not hesitate to choose his exclusive skill Burning Soul Rebirth. He did not stop and continued to enhance the Psyche Soul Whale. While Red Thorn was commanding the gluttonous vines to sweep the large whale's tail, Lin Yuan had been enhancing the Psychic Soul Whale. In the end he upgraded the Soul Whale to Bronze X/Legend before he reluctantly stopped. Lin Yuan had always been pursuing an extreme and nurturing phase. It was precisely because of this reason that there was a slight gap between Lin Yuan's Fei and his strength. However, this gap was for the future. When Lin Yuan became an A-rank spirit chi professional, his Fei would immediately amaze the world when it became a myth breed. Therefore Lin Yuan continued to be stuck at Chimey, Genius, Blackie and the Purple Cloud grade. The Psyche Soul Whale's grade was stuck at Bronze X/Legend. When Lin Yuan comprehended a willpower rune suitable for the Psyche Soul Whale, he would choose to let the Psyche Soul Whale become a fantasy breed and a Bronze X/Fantasy I Fei. Then he would let the Psyche Soul Whale reach silver. This was the only way to maximize the Psyche Soul Whale's potential and also for the possibility of Morbius grade increasing to the extreme. With Morbius Silver Spirit Lock in place, Lin Yuan probed Morbius. Fei name, Morbius Fei species, Fei grade, Silver 10/10, Fei type, Spatial/Mystery Fei quality, Fantasy I abilities, Omitted exclusive skill, Omitted Silver Spirit Lock, Psyche Soul Whale, Bronze X/Legend abilities Frowny Face Soul Knot. When facing a dead target's body, sing a whale cry to condense a small number of souls hidden in the target's body and awaken the target's soul. If the target has enough souls, it will awaken the soul's memories when it was alive. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Burning Soul Rebirth. By consuming spiritual ingredients filled with soul power, it can guide the pure energy in the soul-type spiritual ingredients into the condensed soul. It can use the soul energy to repair the broken soul as much as possible, making the broken soul complete. Morbius had been asleep for a long time. Lin Yuan did not have a good solution for his first partner's slumber. When the Psyche Soul Whale became a fantasy breed and reached gold, Lin Yuan's Morbius would be able to reach gold. Perhaps Morbius would be able to wake up when it reached gold. Lin Yuan had to say that he missed Morbius. When would he be able to comprehend a willpower rune suitable for the Psyche Soul Whale? Lin Yuan reached out and scratched the back of his head. To be honest, he had comprehended quite a number of willpower runes. He gave the Twilight rune he had comprehended in Millstone Town to Chimey. He gave the Yin-Yang rune he had comprehended from watching the sun and moon alternating on the blue jade heavenly horse's back and the Myriad rune he had comprehended from watching the Dragon Phoenix landscape carps back to the source sand. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from watching the wildfire burn the barren mountains vegetation recovery to the Jasmine Lily. He gave the Vast Ocean rune he had comprehended from watching the vast ocean outside Indigo Azure City to Blackie. He gave the Knowledge rune he had comprehended from reading books to Genius. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from watching the Silver Stamen Gold Luster Cache's destruction and re-establishment to Red Thorn. He gave the Willpower rune he had comprehended from feeling the flow of the wind to Golden Wing. He gave the butterfly-shaped rune he had comprehended from watching the purple firmament and the slaughtering sky butterfly fly under the sun. In addition, Silver Flower had transformed into a fairy's source-type life form through the fairy's heart. She had recognized Lin Yuan as her master because he was the first person she had seen when she had opened her eyes. Therefore, the contract between Lin Yuan and Silver Flower was not a two-way bond, but Silver Flower had unilaterally recognized Lin Yuan as her master. Chapter 1341. As a result, Lin Yuan was unable to let Silver Flower use the slaughter rune. Even if the massacre willpower rune she had comprehended in the alien insect dimensional rift was very suitable for Silver Splendor, it was different. Lin Yuan had comprehended a total of 10 willpower runes, and it would definitely scare people to death. The prodigies of the younger generation had never heard of anyone possessing 10 fantasy breed phase. However, no matter how he comprehended willpower runes, he always felt that he did not have enough willpower runes. Apart from the ones he had already used, the only willpower rune he had left was the massacre rune he had comprehended in the alien insect dimensional rift. Lin Yuan, who had been stuck with the knowledge willpower rune for a long time, knew what it felt like when he wanted to obtain a willpower rune, but the willpower rune did not come. He also understood how difficult it was to comprehend specific willpower runes. If specific willpower runes weren't hard to find, there wouldn't be so many spirit chi professionals spending a lot of money to find creation masters to customize phase that were suitable for them to comprehend willpower runes. Just now, Red Thorn had collected the ambergris whale fragrance, which could increase a living being's perception of the will of heaven and earth. The completely jade-textured agarwood could calm people down and help them think. It was Lin Yuan's favorite incense. He planned to take out the 4 pieces of ambergris whale fragrance of different textures and colors when he returned. Let's see which piece of ambergris whale fragrance we like the most. Then the ambergris whalebone and the completely jade-textured agarwood were ground and mixed together to be used as daily incense. This way he might be able to comprehend the willpower rune that was suitable for the soul remembrance whale earlier. If his willpower runes could not keep up, a perfectionist like him would not dare to contract new phase. If the other prodigies of the younger generation knew what Lin Yuan was thinking right now, who knew how they would feel? You've already comprehended 10 willpower runes, yet you're still not satisfied. We were overjoyed to have comprehended one. What do you take willpower runes for? Was it the cabbage on the street or the toilet paper at the head of the bed? Moreover, you're a little too arrogant and extravagant. Anyone who obtained a piece of ambergris whale fragrance would only dare to carefully make it into a pendant and hang it on their body. He borrowed the scent released by the pendant to enhance his ability to comprehend the world's will runes. Not only did you burn the ambergris whale fragrance, but you also burned it. When it was burning, it was also very picky. It had to choose the one with the best taste from the 4 kinds of ambergris whale incense. Comparisons were odious indeed. Of course, those young prodigies wouldn't have the chance to know what kind of treasure Lin Yuan had. Lin Yuan wasn't a flamboyant person, and he liked to hide his good stuff and quietly make a fortune. Right now, Red Thorn had already commanded the gluttonous vines to devour the flesh of the 3 island whales that were close to 10,000 meters long, leaving behind only 3 complete island whale skeletons. After Red Thorn finished eating the 3 island whales, the Mother of Bloodbath carefully stored the 3 skeletons in the diamond phase storage box. The bone oil of the island whale was similar to the brain oil of the island whale. The older the island whale, the denser its bones were. The skeletons of these 3 old island whales who had died of natural causes were like smooth jade, rippling on the bottom of the sea. Lin Yuan only needed a glance to determine the use of these 3 island whale skeletons. He did not intend to cut open the bones to extract the marrow, even if it would prolong the incubation time of the floating island whales. After all, the floating island whale wouldn't hatch too late just because it lacked the marrow of the 3 island whales. Perhaps the whale marrow alone was enough to hatch the floating island whale. Lin Yuan could wait, but it wasn't a problem that time could solve if he wanted to obtain the 3 island whale skeletons. The quality of the bones of the old island whales was higher than that of the adult island whales. Even if the quality was the same, Lin Yuan couldn't kill the whale to extract its bones. Lin Yuan planned to use these 3 complete island whale skeletons as pillars to build a real sky city on the floating island whale's back. After extracting the marrow, the whale bones would lose their original jade luster and become cold white. The whale bone furniture that appeared in the auction house were all whale bones that had their marrow extracted. If the marrow was sealed in the whale bones would become more and more lustrous and solid under the nourishment of the marrow. The 3 island whale skeletons would build a sky city on the floating island whale's back. On the one hand, the water elements and spirit chi released by the island whale's bones could nourish the floating island whale's skin. This would prevent the floating island whale's skin from drying up under the effect of the wind while flying at a high altitude. On the other hand, the water element energy and spirit chi of the whale bones would seep into the floating island whale's back. At that time, Lin Yuan wouldn't need to water and maintain any plant phase on the floating island whale's back. It could grow perfectly by relying on the water vapor released by the island whale's bones. The complete island whale's bones were very solid. As the skeleton of the Sky City, together with some other solid spiritual materials, it could ensure that the Sky City's body wouldn't be damaged when the floating island whale crashed into other targets. Hu Quan would probably be very excited to know that he had used the 3 island whales' complete bones to build a Sky City. At that moment, Red Thorn's grade had risen to Gold 9/Fantasy V and was just a step away from reaching Platinum. Lin Yuan put Red Thorn and the Thought Soul Whale back into the Spirit Lock spatial zone and removed the Faith Possession state to transform into his human form. The Mother of Bloodbath came to Lin Yuan's side and handed over the dozen diamond face storage boxes in its hands to him. These are all the useful resources that can be collected from a large whale fall. In addition to those whale bones, I also deliberately left over 100 whale gallbladders in Red Thorn's mouth. The giant whale's gallbladder has the ability to detoxify poisons, and the island whale's gallbladder is an antidote that can detoxify the world's strange poisons. Keep these whale gallbladders. They might come in handy in the future. Lin Yuan smiled and took the Fey storage boxes from the Mother of Bloodbath. Thank you for your hard work, Mother of Bloodbath. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have any experience in teaching Red Thorn what to eat and what to keep. The Mother of Bloodbath shook its head. Compared to what Lin Yuan had done to him, what he was doing now was truly insignificant. It was not worthy for Lin Yuan to express his gratitude to him. He should be the one who should express his gratitude. Given Lin Yuan's salvation, it would not be enough even if he stood in front of Lin Yuan and thanked him for 1,000 years. The Mother of Bloodbath said softly. Lin Yuan, you didn't let me be polite to you previously. Why are you being polite to me now? That's right, one of the Fey storage boxes I just gave you contained 7 law crystals. 6 of them are at Myth I and 2 are at Myth II. Don't be fooled by the size of these giant whales. These giant whales aren't that strong. Speaking of which, it's a pity that only one of the 3 island whales became a myth. The law crystals in the island whale's body are more than 10 times more valuable than the law crystals in the other giant whales. Chapter 1342. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up, but he did not intend to check the law crystals in the diamond face storage box here. These law crystals were the princess food, and the laws contained in them would be absorbed by her. He had plenty of time to explore after returning to the mansion, so he was not in a hurry. There was nothing at the bottom of the sea, so Lin Yuan prepared to return to the island with Lu Jia and the Mother of Bloodbath. The most important thing for this trip to Shocking Wave City was to speed up the floating island whales hatching. It was really inconvenient to extract the whale marrow from the 100-odd giant whale bones in the sea. The giant whale spent most of its life in the deep sea and occasionally came to the surface to breathe. This caused the pressure in the giant whale bones to be extremely high. As long as there was a hole in the giant whale bones, the whale marrow inside would immediately be squeezed out by the pressure. The essence of the giant whale marrow was pure water elements and spirit chi, and it would quickly fuse into the sea after escaping. In order to ensure that the whale marrow could be completely absorbed by the floating island whale, it was the wisest choice to extract it on the island. Apart from bringing Lin Yuan the expected harvest, this large whale fall had also allowed him to harvest a legendary creature, the Remembrance Whale. The Remembrance Whale was definitely a pleasant surprise for Lin Yuan on this trip to Shocking Wave City. Lin Yuan, who had just returned to the island and was about to take out the whale bone to speed up the floating island whales hatching, was immediately stunned by the situation on the island. Damn, what the hell is going on? Why did Yin Dai transform back into her true form? Why was her subordinate, the Sea King, beaten to the brink of death? He could only inhale and not exhale. Bai Yen, in his human form, was standing on Yin Dai's body, holding a bone piece in his hand and scraping something from her body. This scene was so strange that it made one's hair stand on end. Lin Yuan had not clearly said that he had forgiven Yin Dai. However, the meaning behind his words had already shown his attitude toward Yin Dai. The mother of Bloodbath had forgiven Yin Dai and would not pursue the matter. Why did Bai Yan suddenly make a move against Yin Dai? Lin Yuan immediately shouted. Bai Yan, what's going on? Compared to Yin Dai, Lin Yuan trusted Bai Yan more. Putting aside whether his ruler identity could scare Bai Yan or not. The light spot in his soul shrine that represented Bai Yan's faith power was not fake. Bai Yan's light of faith was extremely large. This meant that Bai Yan's faith in him was extremely deep. Right now, Bai Yan's power of faith had not weakened at all. It was impossible for Bai Yan to go against his will. Come to think of it, there must be a reason for all this. Yin Dai, who had reverted to her true form, trembled in fear as she watched Bai Yan wantonly scrape the fine scales off her body. Yin Dai shuddered in fear as she recalled the methods Bai Yan had used on her. Yin Dai shouted frantically when she saw that Lin Yuan had returned to the island after collecting the large whale fall. Lin Yuan, save me. After saving me, I'll do anything you want me to. I will tell you all the secrets about the imperial mermaids and mermaids that I know. At this moment, Yin Dai was like a rabbit that had been cornered by a tiger and suddenly saw its savior. When Bai Yan heard Lin Yuan's question, he immediately turned around and jumped off Yin Dai's back. She said to Lin Yuan while putting the silver blue paste into the crystal bottle. Sir, you clearly said that the people on the island should not go into the sea. In the end, I discovered that this stinky fish had the intention of peeping into the sea. This stinky fish did not obey Sir's orders, so I wanted to teach this stinky fish the rules of staying by Sir's side. I wanted to let this stinky fish know the difference between superiors and subordinates and that a servant can only do what a servant can do. Since it wants to be Sir's servant, how can a servant spy on Sir's actions? Lin Yuan was a little surprised to hear Bai Yan's words. This Bai Yan really knew how to protect him. Other than people like the mother of Bloodbath and Wuxia, the Remembrance Soul Whale was something that only Lin Yuan knew. Lin Yuan would not let others know and he did not want others to know. Lin Yuan looked at Yin Dai, who was now in human form. In human form, Yin Dai was as miserable as one could be. The fin behind the giant horn on her head was abnormally dim. There was also an obvious blood stain at the corner of her mouth. It seemed that Bai Yan did not go easy on her. When he saw that Lin Yuan's gaze did not blame him, Bai Yan immediately knew that his flattery had succeeded. In Bai Yan's opinion, Yin Dai's behavior was simply courting death. A small stinky fish actually dared to spy on Sir Ruler. You are not worthy. Living in the swamp world, Bai Yan valued life forms the most. If a dimensional life form dared to spy on an apostle, it would be sentenced to death in the dimensional world. Bai Yan, who had seen the cruel methods of the dimensional world, had just used all the methods he knew on Yin Dai. The slaughter sky butterfly first looked at Bai Yan with fear, then walked to Lin Yuan's side and said, Lin Yuan, it is as Bai Yan said. Although Bai Yan's method is a little extreme in my opinion, Bai Yan's method is not wrong. After saying that, the slaughter sky butterfly looked at Yin Dai with an unfriendly expression. If it was not for its own strength being inferior to Yin Dai's, the slaughter sky butterfly would have also stopped Yin Dai when she was probing the sea. As a sea emperor, Yin Dai's strength had reached the immortal level. There was no difference between standing on the island and using its spiritual power to probe the seabed and personally going into the sea with its eyes. When he heard the slaughter sky butterfly's words, Lin Yuan walked in front of Yin Dai. He lowered his head to look at Yin Dai, who was sitting on the ground, and asked, Looks like you weren't sincere when you said that before I went into the sea to collect the large whale fall. For some reason, Yin Dai felt a chill run down her spine when she heard this. Yin Dai hurriedly pleaded, Sir, I've never been someone's subordinate before. I'm used to being free and undisciplined, so I don't know the rules. Sir, please give me another chance. I know a lot of information about the Sea Emperor's 8 clans. I can tell you all about it. If you'd like to know about the internal affairs of our Yin Dai clan, I'll be sure to tell you everything I know. Upon hearing Yin Dai's words, Lin Yuan didn't forgive her immediately. Yin Dai's words shouldn't be false. As a member of the Sea Monarch clan, even if the Sea Monarch clan was at the bottom of the hierarchy, it was still the Sea Monarch clan. Furthermore, Yin Dai wasn't well liked by the Imperial tribe, so she definitely wouldn't become a subordinate of another sea tribe. But not knowing the rules was not a good thing. In particular, Lin Yuan had decided to make the imperial mermaids and mermaids give him an explanation. There would definitely be a war with the sea race. Keeping an unruly ocean emperor by his side would only bring trouble and no benefits. Rules were things that could not be learned without a period of time. Lin Yuan did not have the time to teach Yin Dai how to learn the rules. Therefore, fear was the best solution. As long as Yin Dai's heart was filled with fear, she would think about the consequences and punishment before doing anything. Yin Dai wouldn't easily break the rules. Lin Yuan turned his head and asked Bai Yan. Bai Yan, what were those things that you took earlier? Chapter 1343. Hearing this, Bai Yan immediately took out a large bottle from his sleeve. The bottle was filled with a silvery blue paste-like substance. Bai Yan handed the bottle of silver blue paste-like substance to Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. Sir, when I attacked this smelly fish, I found that the scales on its body were very smooth. I'm thinking of collecting some so that I can apply these fine scales on my back armor when I return to my original form and bask in the sun. It should be very comfortable." Speaking up to here, Bai Yan continued to speak as if he was presenting a treasure. "My lord, I've collected more than 30 bottles of this stuff. See if you like them. If you like them, I'll give you all of them." Upon hearing Bai Yan's words, Lin Yuan felt as though he was about to split open. Yin Dai was the sea monarch of the sovereign clan, so the thin scales on her body must be an extremely valuable water-type spirit material. Bai Yan had collected so many bottles of scales when Yin Dai had transformed into her original form. It was no wonder that Yin Dai was in such a miserable state. If Bai Yan had said that he was collecting them to increase his strength or for Bai Xian to use, Lin Yuan would have been able to understand. But who would have thought that Bai Yan would actually use Yin Dai's fine scales as a skincare product, and even wanted to offer it to her? What was the use of Yin Dai's fine scales? Was he going to use it as a scrub when he bathed? Lin Yuan's mouth twitched as he handed the bottle back to Bai Yan. "Since you're interested in these fine scales, you can keep them for yourself." After saying that, Lin Yuan took out the treasure cave golden cicada's skin and stomach pouch. "I see that you have a good relationship with Yin Dai. You've shaved off so many of his hair just now. Now it's time to comfort him. Well, come in and stay for a while." When Bai Yan heard Lin Yuan's words, he was slightly startled. He immediately grinned as he understood the meaning behind Lin Yuan's words. When Yin Dai heard Lin Yuan's words, she felt that Lin Yuan was even more terrifying than Bai Yan. Lin Yuan's terrifying image was deeply imprinted in Yin Dai's heart. In extreme fear, Yin Dai couldn't help but burst into tears. But when she saw the cold expression on Lin Yuan's face, Yin Dai didn't dare to beg for mercy from him. Yin Dai was afraid that if she opened her mouth, the youth in front of her would change his mind and treat her in a more terrifying way. Yin Dai had no choice but to voluntarily enter the golden cicada treasure cave while shivering. As for the two sea kings, Lin Yuan simply threw them in for Bai Yan to teach. The mother of Bloodbath and Lu Jie revealed smiles on their faces when they saw what Lin Yuan had done to Yin Dai. In the past, Lin Yuan had always been exceptionally tolerant and rarely lost his temper. Although this was a good quality for a person when interacting with some people, it was inevitable that they would be considered to have no temper. He was being trampled on. What Lin Yuan had done to Yin Dai just now proved that his temperament had always been growing. From a sunny youth, he had grown into a leader. Lin Yuan had clearly given Yin Dai a chance, but she had not taken Lin Yuan's orders seriously. Since Yin Dai didn't know how precious it was when he gave her a chance, then he would use a cruel method to teach her a lesson. Otherwise, he would have indulged and forgiven Yin Dai over and over again. It would only make Yin Dai unable to see the rules clearly, lose her sense of propriety and lose her loyalty. Only the mother of Bloodbath, Lu Jie, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, and the Void Shadow Fiend were left on the island. Lin Yuan had nothing to hide from these people, so he summoned the island whale embryo from the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Among everyone present, apart from Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly were non-marine phase and knew little about the island whale. As a dimensional life form, the Void Shadow Fiend was even more clueless. At that moment, Lu Jie keenly noticed that the island whale embryo that Lin Yuan had taken out was very different from ordinary island whale embryos. Ordinary island whale embryos were pure blue, but the one that Lin Yuan had taken out was cyan and blue, containing the aura of two elements, wind and water. Lu Jie had never seen such an island whale embryo. Lin Yuan attached his hand to the floating island whale embryo, which had long been accustomed to Lin Yuan's aura after being fed with his blood many times. As soon as Lin Yuan placed his hand on the eggshell, he could immediately feel the floating island whale inside the eggshell intimately leaning over. He could even feel the vibration caused by the floating island whale rubbing against the eggshell on the surface of the eggshell. Upon seeing everyone's curious gazes, Lin Yuan said, "That's right. When I first built my faction, I decided to name it Sky City. It was not a random name, but I wanted to build my faction in the sky from the beginning. This is a mutated island whale embryo called the floating island whale. Can roam in the sky like an island whale in the water." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Void Shadow Fiend did not feel anything. After all, it was not a life form of the main world. However, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly were stunned by Lin Yuan's words at the same time. The three of them naturally did not doubt the truth in Lin Yuan's words, but they were too shocking. Island whales in the sea and flying into the sky were two different concepts. Island whales in the sea could not set foot on land, but floating island whales soaring in the sky could. This makes the island whale a far cry from the floating island whale in terms of strategic significance. Building the faction's base camp on the floating island whale's back was equivalent to allowing the faction to descend in any corner of the world at will. It was no longer limited by territory. Lu Jie suddenly realized that he had never really understood Lin Yuan. Not to mention following Lin Yuan's ambition, he could not even imagine Lin Yuan's ambition. From the beginning, Lin Yuan's ambition was not in the Radiance Federation but the entire main world. Moreover, Lin Yuan had always been working hard for this ambition. Now that he had acknowledged the Chief Guard Knight Leaning Moon as his master, the resources he needed to increase his strength were all provided by his master. However, Lu Jie did not doubt that if he did not have his master, Lin Yuan would know that his insect queen could control the insect-type carcinoma phase. Lin Yuan would definitely help him find the insect-type carcinoma phase one by one. Lu Jie had always wanted to shelter Lin Yuan from the wind and rain, but in the end, no matter how he looked at it, it was Lin Yuan who had been using his shoulder to shelter everyone in Sky City from the wind and rain. In the end, Lu Jie did not say much and there was no need to say anything more. If he wanted to catch up to Lin Yuan's footsteps and be his retainer knight for life, he could only work harder and harder. Lu Jie sorted out his emotions, rolled up his sleeves and said, "Lin Yuan, there are 100 whale bones. Lin Yuan, there are 100 whale bones. Let's split up and get the floating island whale's marrow." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan took out the diamond face storage boxes that the mother of Bloodbath had given him. Then he summoned all the giant whale skeletons excluding the island whale skeletons from the diamond face storage boxes. Lin Yuan did not feel anything when he was at the bottom of the sea, but now, there were hundreds of giant whale skeletons that were hundreds of meters long, occupying more than half of the island's area. At a glance, it was truly shocking. Chapter 1344. Lu Jie ordered the insect queen to produce a large number of shield ladybugs. The giant whale's skeleton was very heavy, and the mother of Bloodbath, Slaughtering Sky Butterfly and Void Shadow Demon could easily pick it up. However, he and Lin Yuan could not. The diamond shield ladybugs produced by the insect queen were all Hercules. 10 shield ladybugs formed a small team. It was very easy to lift the giant whale skeleton. Although the whale bone was hard, it was not difficult to extract the whale marrow as long as one found the right method. The whale bone was connected by a spine from head to tail. Below the huge skull were many ribs that formed the body. The center of the whale's skull was the most vulnerable, and there was a layer of rubber-like membrane growing on it. This thin film would not be corroded by the seawater during the whale's fall, but as long as a sharp object was forcefully pierced through, the thin film would be destroyed. The whale marrow would naturally spurt out. In order to maintain the integrity of the whale bones, Lu Jie, the mother of Bloodbath, the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly, and the Void Shadow Demon used this method to extract whale marrow from the island whale skeletons one after another. Lin Yuan used his body as the door and opened the Spirit Lock spatial zone with all his might. He then took out all his wind attribute Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. The wind-type elemental shellfish was the least among all the elemental shellfish he had, but only the floating island whale could use the wind-type Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearl. It wasn't time for Golden Wing to use the wind element Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. Therefore, Lin Yuan had the most wind-type Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. Wuxia, the slaughterer butterfly and the mother of bloodbath, watched in shock as he piled up boxes after boxes of wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls around the floating island whale embryo. Then he pressed his body tightly against the floating island whale's eggshell. During this process he cut his hands again and used his blood to deepen his connection with the floating island whale. In fact, he did not need to inject spirit chi into the island whale's embryo anymore. The giant whale's marrow had a large amount of spirit chi reserves, which had reached the standard for the floating island whale to absorb. He only needed to provide the wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. However, it was clear that there was more pure water elemental energy in the whale's marrow than spiritual energy. In order to allow the floating island whale embryo to absorb pure wind and water elemental energy to the greatest extent, he planned to cut off the absorption of pure spirit chi by the other phase in the spirit lock spatial zone while the floating island whale absorbed the whale's marrow. When Gray had been absorbing pure spirit chi wantonly in the spirit lock spatial zone, he had been worried about the floating island whale. He had been afraid that the embryo would be affected. Now that it was the floating island whale's turn, Lin Yuan had nothing to worry about. The heaven and earth phase, the twin red pagoda, the spirit wisdom purple Zhou and the various elemental shellfish would not be affected much without pure spirit energy. At most, the elemental shellfish would not produce elemental pearls during this period of time. Soon, the mother of bloodbath, the slaughtering sky butterfly, and the void shadow demon poured a large amount of whale marrow on the island whale embryo. A storm of wind and water elements rippled across the entire island with the embryo of the island whale as the center. Thanks to Anha's magical transformation of the island's terrain, there were no other creatures on the island except for them. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if other living beings saw this scene. After 70 to 80 giant whales' marrow fell on the floating island whale's eggshell, Lin Yuan's body, which was hugging the eggshell, keenly felt the impact of the floating island whale hitting the eggshell. This meant that the little thing in the eggshell was eager to see him. It was anxiously crying and rolling around. While feeling the floating island whale's closeness and attachment to him, Lin Yuan sighed faintly. 2/3 of the giant whale's marrow had been used up, but there was no whimper coming from the floating island whale embryo. It seemed like there was no chance of hatching the floating island whale today. It was no wonder. The growth of the floating island whale embryo required pure wind-type energy, and there was no wind-type energy at the bottom of the sea. After obtaining the floating island whale embryo, the Gao family had been nurturing it as an island whale embryo and still had not provided it with pure wind-type energy. In other words, this floating island whale embryo was only nurtured in the spirit lock spatial zone when it was in Lin Yuan's hands. It had obtained pure spirit energy, water-type energy, and wind-type energy for the first time since birth. If the floating island whale embryo could rely on absorbing these giant whales' marrow to hatch, the floating island whale embryo would not be so precious. The sea species would not treasure the island whale so much. Of course, no matter what, Lin Yuan's idea of not using the 3 island whale skeletons had never changed. If the floating island whale's marrow was absorbed by the floating island whale embryo, it would hatch within a month at the latest. Before the Radiance 100 sequence, the floating island whale would be able to hatch from its embryo and meet him. Lin Yuan had been looking forward to the hatching of the floating island whale for a long time. Ever since he had obtained the floating island whale embryo, there was not a day that he did not hope for it to hatch quickly. Without this large-scale whale fall, it would take at least 5 to 6 months to hatch the floating island whale embryo. He would need to wait at least 5 to 6 months. Now Lin Yuan only needed to wait for another month at most. At that moment, the wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls piled under the island whale embryo were being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After consuming so many precious spiritual ingredients and the geocentric jade milk, Lin Yuan's body functions had evolved. He cut open a wound on his palm. As long as he wanted to, even without a healing-type fey to heal it, he could still use his spiritual energy to control the cells in his body to quickly recover. At present, Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to let the wounds on his palms heal. Instead, he continued to let his palms bleed. This was to deepen his connection with the floating island whale for the last time. Wuxia, the mother of bloodbath, and the others helped to extract the whale's marrow from the whale bone while looking at the consumption of the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls around the floating island whale embryo in shock. With every breath of the floating island whale embryo, 80 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls and 1.5 giant whale's marrow would be reduced. In other words, every breath of the floating island whale was equivalent to consuming hundreds of millions of radiance dollars. The floating island whale embryo could breathe almost 5 times in a minute. In 12 seconds, Lin Yuan had poured nearly 10 billion radiance dollars into nurturing the floating island whale. The consumption of resources at this speed was simply terrifying. Even the Radiance Federation's top factions could not afford it. But at the same time, Lin Yuan's efforts and gains were proportional. Not to mention the hatching speed. In terms of quality alone, Lin Yuan's floating island whale would definitely be stronger and larger than the island whales hatched by other factions. Island whales hatched naturally in the sea could easily grow to nearly 50,000 meters in length when they reached adulthood. It would be good if the island whales hatched by those top factions could reach 30,000 meters in length when they reached adulthood. Chapter 1345. This was because when the island whale hatched, the water elemental energy and spirit chi provided by the top factions were not as pure as the spirit chi and spirit chi released from the whale fall. In the eyes of the factions, the floating island whale was not treated as an ordinary fae but as a foundation-class strategic resource. Some factions that specialized in the sea or trade, such as the whale ocean trade, nurtured the island whale for shipping on the sea. They used the characteristic that the island whale would not be attacked by marine faes to conduct cross-sea trade between the various federations. Therefore, the whale ocean trade did not need to be perfect when nurturing the island whale embryos. The purity of the spirit chi and water elements did not depend on the number of creation masters but on the creation master's star class. The concentration of water elements and spirit chi produced by high-class creation masters was higher than that of low-class creation masters. Any faction's creation master resources were in short supply, and they would use as much as they could. The whale ocean trade naturally hoped to hatch the island whale at the lowest cost. This could save a lot of creation master resources. The saved resources were even enough to nurture 2 or 3 new island whales. Lin Yuan was using all kinds of wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. He had taken out a lot of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with pearls and piled them around the floating island whale's eggshell. It could be said that the floating island whale that Lin Yuan had artificially nurtured was no different from the island whale hatched from a large whale fall. In fact, the floating island whale that Lin Yuan had nurtured was better than the one that naturally hatched from a large whale fall. The elemental purity contained in the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was not something that a large whale fall could compare to. It was the current limit of a Class 5 creation master. With the consumption of over 90 island whales' marrow and 1,000 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, Lin Yuan finally felt the floating island whale embryo tremble in place. At the same time, the floating island whale embryo's whale cry became louder. Upon hearing the floating island whale embryo's cry and the trembling of the eggshell, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. As long as the little fellow in the eggshell was strong enough to break the eggshell, the floating island whale would hatch. With the consumption of the last giant whale's marrow and the floating island whale embryo's last breath, everything on the island returned to peace. The floating island whale embryo could not leave the pure spirit chi before hatching, so Lin Yuan hurriedly sent it back to the spirit lock spatial zone. He then put away the unfinished wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls on the ground. Lu Jie said as he helped Lin Yuan tidy up the whale bones that had released the whale marrow. Lin Yuan, it seems that the floating island whale will hatch within this month. When the floating island whale hatches, building on its back will be a big project. Hu Quan, there are only 300 to 500 spirit craftsmen in the Heavenly Construct Pavilion. The underground palace beside the Divine Wood Federation can't do without Hu Quan for the time being. The swamp world also needs spirit craftsmen. Lu of Spirit Master Heavenly Craft Pavilion Li King I said he and said of Master of Craftsman Island and Pavilion, Spirit of as he said Li Island Li and of Spirit, of, comma, in Ayas of as Island City Dragon Island as of Spirit as of Island Dragon in as in Island as Dragon Spirit as of Lin as. In fact, 500 spirit craftsmen might not be able to keep up with the development speed of the swamp world's infrastructure. No one did not want the infrastructure to be built quickly, so it was not enough no matter how many spirit craftsmen the Heavenly Craft Pavilion recruited. Moreover, it would consume a lot of resources to recruit spirit craftsmen on a large scale. Whether Hu Quan could teach them was a problem. Lin Yuan and Hu Quan had discussed this issue, and Hu Quan had said that bringing 500 spirit craftsmen at a time was already the limit. The more people he recruited, the bigger his business would be. The human heart was unpredictable, and recruiting spirit craftsmen on a large scale would inevitably attract some spies. This was likely to cause Sky City's internal information to leak out. At the border between the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation, Lin Yuan had seen goblins for the first time. Compared to spirit craftsmen, goblins were actually better at building underground palaces. 3 Class 5 goblins were comparable to a Class 4 spirit craftsman team. At the same time, goblins were very dexterous. Dimensional lifeforms like goblins might be dirty and ugly. In fact, every goblin was a master of architectural aesthetics. When some spirit chi professionals entered the underground dimensional rifts of Class 2 and above and encountered goblins, they would not kill them immediately. Instead, he tailed the gnomes and followed them back to their lair. Then they would kill the goblin and take away the items in the goblin nest. These items made by goblins were very popular in the luxury market. Because of this, many factions with creation masters as their function issued missions in the Guild Federation. They asked adventurers to capture live goblins and buy them. The creation masters in these factions used spirit fluids to tame goblins and found that it was very difficult for humans to tame goblins. Even if it took a long time to successfully tame them, they were still not loyal and very lazy. Once they seized the opportunity, they would think of ways to escape. These factions with creation masters as their function invested so much manpower, material resources and creation master resources, but in the end they received very little in return. Among them, the Coiling Dragon Valley suffered the most losses. When chatting with Long Tao previously, Long Tao had specifically complained to Lin Yuan about the Coiling Dragon Valley's failure to tame goblins. Even though Lin Yuan sympathized with Long Tao, it didn't mean that Coiling Dragon Valley couldn't do it. The reason why creation masters weren't able to make goblins pledge their loyalty was because they weren't able to refine source power. They could only produce spirit chi and didn't know anything about the power of faith. Spirit chi had an irresistible temptation to phase, but it was no different from a tasteless fart to dimensional life forms. Regardless of whether it was source power or power of faith, Lin Yuan could rely on the princess in blue sky to produce them. Moreover, Lin Yuan had also taken in a mineral vein goblin in the Divine Wood Federation and transformed it into an apostle. With the mineral vein goblin, he could directly hand them over to the mineral vein goblin for guidance. He could let the mineral vein goblin choose moldable talents to take in as believers or use totem power to transform them into favored believers. This could increase the intensity of the mineral vein goblin's power of faith and could also pull up a completely loyal construction team for Lin Yuan. When the spirit craftsmen who Lin Yuan had invested a lot of resources to nurture, commanded these goblins, they would definitely be able to do things with twice the results with half the effort. As the Class 6 dimensional rift opened to the entire Radiance Federation, there was bound to be a transformation in the Radiance Federation. Since this was the main theme of the era's development, Lin Yuan planned to follow the call of the era. He would do his best to develop the potential of dimensional lifeforms for his own use. Chapter 1346. Lin Yuan shook his head and said to Lu Jia, "Big brother Lu, do you still remember that mineral vein gnome?" Lu Jia was slightly startled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. He immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant when he had subdued the mineral vein gnome. When he thought of Lin Yuan's miraculous means when he had subdued the mine goblins, he immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Lu Jia's eyes lit up. "I'll go to the Guild Federation and post a bounty to capture the gnome. The active period of the dimensional rifts has just ended, and the price of dimensional lifeforms is at its lowest in a decade. Not long ago, I saw on StarWeb that the water world dimensional lifeform snail claw snail, which usually sells for 800,000 radiance dollars, is now being sold for 120,000 radiance dollars. Some of the better ones can only be sold for 300,000 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan stretched his body and said, "I'll have to trouble Big Brother Lu with this matter. Then I'll have to trouble Big Brother Lu with this matter. Let's go to Raging Wave City first and see if it has been affected because we came to collect the large whale fall. Then we'll return to the royal capital." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the killer butterfly immediately transformed into its true form. At that moment the killer butterfly suddenly thought of Bai Yan's method of dealing with Yin Dai. Lin Yuan had thrown Yin Dai into the treasure cave golden cicada artifact for some time. If Lin Yuan did not release Yin Dai, even if Bai Yan did not hurt her, Yin Dai would likely be scared to death by Bai Yan's hands. Yin Dai was useful to Lin Yuan, and it would not be good for her to be scared to death by Bai Yan. The killer butterfly intended to remind Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan scratched his head awkwardly after receiving the killer butterfly's reminder. Lin Yuan had been wholeheartedly thinking about Sky City's development and had really thrown Yin Dai to the back of his mind. If not for the killer butterfly's reminder, Yin Dai would have been taken to the royal capital. Therefore Lin Yuan opened the artifact made of the treasure cave golden cicada's skin and stomach and released Bai Yan Yin Dai and her 2 sea kings. After being released, Bai Yan bowed respectfully to Lin Yuan and said, "My lord, I've made up for what I should do. My lord, I've already made up for what should be paid and I've already apologized. In order to prevent this stinky fish from offending you again, I've also taught this stinky fish in a friendly manner what to say and how to do in front of you in the future." After saying that, Bai Yan narrowed his eyes and glanced at Yin Dai. When Yin Dai met Bai Yan's gaze, she was so frightened that her entire body quivered. He hurriedly knelt in front of Lin Yuan while shivering and kept greeting him. He didn't know what had happened in the golden cicada treasure cave, but Yin Dai, a sea emperor, had been reprimanded by Bai Yan to such an extent. Lin Yuan walked in front of Yin Dai and said softly to her, "It's good that Bai Yan apologized to you. Letting you and Bai Yan communicate inside is also to improve the friendship between you and Bai Yan. In the future all of you will be working under me. Don't be on guard. I'll ask you again. Are you sure you want to be my servant in the future?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yin Dai felt even more terrified in her heart. Even though Lin Yuan's words were sarcastic and had hidden meanings, Yin Dai still didn't dare to refute him. When Yin Dai had first seen Lin Yuan, she had been shocked by his appearance. Lin Yuan's appearance and temperament made Yin Dai fall in love with him. But now Yin Dai's love for Lin Yuan had completely turned into fear. Bai Yan was Yin Dai's nightmare, and Bai Yan followed Lin Yuan blindly. What kind of master would have what kind of subordinate? Lin Yuan, this seemingly harmless and cheerful youth, was definitely 10,000 times more terrifying than Bai Yan. Fear was fear, but when she thought of Bai Yan's methods, Yin Dai didn't dare to neglect Lin Yuan's question. Yin Dai hurriedly said, "My lord, from today onwards I, Yin Dai, will be loyal to you and obey all your orders. My heart will no longer be towards the sea, nor will it be towards the imperial clan. It will only be towards you." Lin Yuan didn't know what Yin Dai was thinking just now, nor did he know that because of Bai Yan's methods he had to bear such a huge responsibility. But even if he knew, Lin Yuan wouldn't mind. "Since that's the case, swear on your immortal body. After swearing, quickly return to the sea region and integrate the resources of your sea region with the resources of the Sharklight Sea region. The Sharklight Sea region is dead and its territory is very close to yours. Before Her Majesty Hui Yao finds you, try your best to integrate the resources of the sea region. After you are found by Her Majesty, come to the royal capital to find me." Yin Dai's eyes lit up when she heard Lin Yuan's words. If that was the case, wouldn't she be able to stay by Bai Yan's side for a long time? That was simply great. Yin Dai immediately swore on her immortal body in the most pious manner and became Lin Yuan's servant. From now on Lin Yuan could decide her life and death with a single thought. Before Yin Dai could be happy for long, Lin Yuan's words sent her into an ice cave again. Regarding the Radiant Sea Treaty, you need to testify on behalf of the Radiant Sea region regarding the Sharklight Sea's invasion of the Radiant Sea region, wanting to seize its resources and commit murder. You won't be able to stay in the sea region. In the future the Sea Imperial 8 clans will definitely not tolerate you. Therefore, before Her Majesty Hui Yao finds you, you have to try your best to collect all the valuable things in the sea region and work under me. If you do well, I can hand over the sea region resources that I occupy to you to manage. If you don't do well, it means that you aren't capable enough. In that case, you might as well not work in the future. It's better to stay by Bai Yan's side and do what you can." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yin Dai nodded with difficulty while shivering. Lin Yuan's reward for her was a great one, and Yin Dai longed for her to be able to unify the Sea Imperial clan and become the Sea Empress. Lin Yuan's reward made Yin Dai see an opportunity. However, Lin Yuan's punishment for her was also a heavy one. If she stayed by Yan's side, Yin Dai felt that she might as well just die. In order to satisfy Lin Yuan, Yin Dai put in all her effort. She was prepared to return to the sea region and immediately go to the Sharklight Sea's territory to kill all the subordinates that might threaten her operation. Then she would control the subordinates of the Sharklight Sea that had submitted to her. Even if she had to plow the ground, she would clean up all the rare resources in her and the Sharklight Sea's territory within 3 days. Even when Lin Yuan and the others flew away on the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, Yin Dai was still kneeling on the ground respectfully. The two Sea Kings, who had no sense of presence ever since Lin Yuan released them from the Treasure Cave Golden Cicada artifact, came to Yin Dai's side and helped her up. The two Sea Kings knew that because of Yin Dai's choice, the two of them would not have a foothold in the Sea Imperial clan in the future. It seemed like they would have to work for this human named Lin Yuan for the rest of their lives. Lin Yuan rode the Slaughter Sky Butterfly to the outskirts of Raging Wave City. From afar, he noticed that there were many Spirit Chi professionals in uniforms stationed outside the city. These Spirit Chi professionals were wearing eye-catching uniforms on their faces, highlighting their identity as Spirit Guards. Upon seeing the Spirit Guards stationed outside Raging Wave City and the intact Indigo Azure City behind the Spirit Guards, Lin Yuan let out a sigh of relief. Chapter 1347. During the battle with the Sharkmang, he was confident that he could kill it. But he didn't have the confidence to control the situation. Fortunately, the previous battle did not affect Stormy Wave City. Otherwise, he would really become the sinner of Stormy Wave City. On the way back, Lin Yuan, Wuxia, and the Mother of Bloodbath all wore Sky City's standard masks. The Void Shadow Devil also merged into Lin Yuan's shadow. Lin Yuan, the Mother of Bloodbath, and Wuxia's attire had changed. It was as though the Moon Empress disciple had never appeared on the island. There had always been an unwritten rule among His Holiness Hui Yao's disciples, which was that they could communicate with each other's whereabouts and information. Gu Lang and Zhong Zhe had mentioned Enhe to Lin Yuan, and Gu Lang had even told them about his conflict with Enhe without any scruples. However, the news of His Holiness's disciple could not be divulged to outsiders. As a disciple of His Holiness Everlasting Lantern, Enhe could not be unaware of this. Therefore, even if Enhe went to Stormy Wave City, he would not expose his identity. In fact, Lin Yuan felt that given Enhe's temperament, even if he really arrived at the Stormy Wave City and met the Stormy Wave City Lord or the Stormy Wave Guard Captain, Wang Su, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Enhe. And he would most likely not give him face and say anything. His identity as the Moon Empress disciple and everything that happened on the island would not be exposed. Lin Yuan did not plan to use his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to meet the Stormy Wave Guard Captain, Wang Su. Otherwise, it would make Wang Su suspicious and link his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to his identity as the Sky City Lord. Perhaps he would make public the fact that the Sky City Lord's identity and the Moon Empress disciple's identity were the same person. But now was clearly not the time. The transaction between Lin Yuan and Wang Su was a transaction between Sky City and Stormy Wave City. It was an equivalent transaction between factions. Lin Yuan did not wish to involve his identity as the Moon Empress disciple. If Wang Su knew of his identity as the Moon Empress disciple, he would surely inform the Stormy Wave City Lord of his identity. At that time, in order to please him, Stormy Wave City might not necessarily do anything. This was equivalent to adding a favor from his master, the Moon Empress, into the originally balanced trade between factions. Using his master's favor to negotiate a deal was not in line with Lin Yuan's principles. Originally, there were two groups of people guarding outside Stormy Wave City. One group was led by two guard envoys, the spirit-suppressing guards. One team was led by Wang Su, the captain of the Stormy Wave Guards. As the city guards of Stormy Wave City, the Stormy Wave Guards had more people than the spirit-suppressing guards led by the two guard envoys. But at the same time, the Stormy Wave Guards were much busier in Stormy Wave City. The Spirit Guard's objective in Raging Wave City was to help the Raging Wave Guard deal with the dimensional rifts that suddenly opened during the active phase. Protect the safety of Stormy Wave City under special circumstances. Now that the active phase of the dimensional rift had ended, the Spirit Guards had nothing to do for the next few days. He was preparing to report back to the capital under the leadership of the two guard envoys. But the Stormy Wave Guards didn't have time to rest. After blocking the tsunami, the stormy wave guards that were temporarily transferred were sent back to their original posts by Wang Su. Just now when Wang Su was in a stalemate with Gu En, he saw and he. Originally, Wang Su's attitude toward Lin Yuan was one of gnashing his teeth. Now that Lin Yuan had caused such a huge incident, he might lose his position as the captain of the Stormy Wave Guard. Although the cooperation with Sky City could bring a lot of help to the Stormy Wave Guard, Wang Su had wanted to add Sky City to Stormy Wave City's blacklist more than once. But from Enhe's mouth, Wang Su clearly heard a sentence. My friend is still on the island. Before my friend returns, no matter what happens, the Stormy Wave Guard is not allowed to go in the direction of the island. Wang Su keenly captured the word friend from Enhe's mouth. The Stormy Wave Guard had always had a huge shortage of high-quality bronze phase. When Wang Su had traded with Lin Yuan previously, he had only allowed Lin Yuan to nurture 200 steel spike iron muscles in one go. This was because Wang Su didn't trust Lin Yuan enough. After all, Wang Su had only heard about the trade between Sky City and the Indigo Azure Guard captain Feng Dong from Feng Dong. Wang Su hadn't seen the trade with his own eyes, so he didn't dare to pour out a large number of resources. If he was cheated by Sky City during the trade, the City Lord would hold him accountable. Wang Su couldn't use the fact that the Indigo Azure Guard captain had also traded with Sky City as an excuse. And he had personally admitted that Sky City's City Lord was his friend. The friend of His Holiness disciple was naturally trustworthy, which meant that he had vouched for Lin Yuan. Although Wang Su was still gnashing his teeth at Lin Yuan in his heart, the smile on his face was like a faintly blooming cornflower. With the guarantee of His Holiness disciple, there was no risk in the trade. Wang Su could give a large number of Stormy Wave City's orders to Sky City. If Stormy Wave City cooperated with other creation masters or factions with creation masters as their function, it would pay real money and resources. However, if Stormy Wave City cooperated with Sky City, it only needed to pay Law Origin crystals. The Law Origin crystal wasn't something precious to a big city near the sea. Since there was no offshore sea outside Stormy Wave City, it was a deep sea that was 1,000 meters deep outside the city. This made the possibility of a high-grade water world dimensional rift opening outside Stormy Wave City more than Indigo Azure City. Speaking of Law Origin crystals, Stormy Wave City could only take out more than Indigo Azure City. In addition, Stormy Wave City's Law Origin crystals had never been used. After 100 years of accumulation, they had accumulated a lot of Law Origin crystals. Moreover, Sky City's City Lord was Enhe's friend. How could Wang Su find trouble with Enhe's friend? Most of the disciples of the Radiance Federation's holiness were over 30 years old, and there were many who were over 40 years old. According to the average age of Spirit Chi professionals in their 30s and 40s were still very young. However, they could not be considered as the younger generation. At present, there were only so many disciples of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. Bamboo Monarch's disciple, Gu Lang, Chef Supreme's disciple, Zhongzhe and Long Lantern's disciple and he. Including the disciples publicly announced by Moon Empress, Cicada Cry, and Bureau Chief Yi at the Nyx Assembly, the Radiance Federation's younger generation only had 6 disciples. Apart from the disciples of Moon Empress, Cicada Cry and Bureau Chief Yi, who were newly accepted and were more mysterious, Wang Su had heard of the other 3 disciples' personalities and characteristics. Gu Lang was gentle and had an extremely good temper. Zhongzhe was battle-hungry, cold and didn't like to talk, but he was reasonable. And he had an eccentric temperament. He was very polite to his own people and never pretended to be polite to outsiders. It was said that he was also very arrogant. It could be said that among the 3, and he was the hardest to answer correctly. And he had said in front of him that he was friends with the people on the island. If he were to find trouble with the Lord of the Sky City, if Wang Su found trouble with Sky City's City Lord, and he might come looking for him. Chapter 1348. Wang Su was not willing to do something that would obviously offend His Holiness disciple. If things really got out of hand, was he going to wait for Lord Cicada Cry to clean up after him? Upon seeing this magnificent milky blue butterfly land on the port in front of the city, Wang Su was about to step forward to talk to Lin Yuan. However, before Wang Su could step forward, he saw that Sky City's City Lord had already walked up to him and said, I'm sorry I caused some trouble on the island. I don't know if the huge waves caused by this storm have any impact on Raging Wave City. Wang Su was startled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Then he focused his gaze and stared at Lin Yuan's eyes. At a glance, Wang Su found that Lin Yuan's gaze was calm and sincere without a trace of falsehood. This made Wang Su immediately change his view of Lin Yuan. Previously, Wang Su had thought of not mentioning this matter to Lin Yuan, fearing that it would cause He's dissatisfaction. The people in the city did not know about the huge waves outside Raging Wave City, so this matter did not have any impact. Wang Su thought that he might as well bear this matter himself. Then he would deepen the cooperation with Sky City. Using the law source crystals to exchange for a large number of high-quality bronze phase was also a way for him to make up for his mistakes. In the end, all his thoughts were in vain. As soon as Lin Yuan arrived, he took on all the responsibilities and did not think of shirking it at all. Wang Su looked at the bright eyes behind the mask engraved with the majestic Sky City's pattern and could not help but feel respect for the owner of these eyes. At the same time, he had an endless good impression of Sky City. The young man in front of him was a responsible faction leader. Under this young man's leadership, Sky City would definitely be a responsible faction. Wang Su, who was not going to say it, changed his mind at this moment. Now that Lin Yuan took the initiative to ask him, Wang Su felt that if he did not tell Lin Yuan the truth, on the contrary, he would let down Lin Yuan's kindness and responsibility. Therefore Wang Su told the truth. Brother, you guys are really fierce on the distant island. You can cause such a big storm from 800 nautical miles away. Just now, one big wave after another came from the distant sea. The first wave was 20 to 30 meters high, but the later waves were all over 100 meters high. The highest wave reached a height of nearly 300 meters. It's all thanks to your reminder and the fact that the spirit guards have gathered here in advance to resist the waves with phase. That's why we didn't suffer any substantial losses. At this point, Wang Su laughed heartily a few times before continuing to speak. Brother, come sit at my place for a while. I'll make you another cup of sea grain tea. Let us brothers have a good chat. After Lu Jie dismounted from the killer butterfly's back, he headed straight for the spirit guards. When the two guard envoys standing in front of the spirit guards saw Lu Jie, they hurriedly went up to greet him. However, they were secretly stopped by Lu Jie. The two guard envoys immediately knew that Lu Jie didn't want to reveal his identity, so they secretly nodded to Lu Jie and prepared to return to the city. At this moment, the two guard envoys heard how Wang Su addressed Lin Yuan. Brother? Who are you calling brother? You call the Moon Empress disciple brother? Wang Su, I've known you for so many years. Why didn't I realize you were so awesome before? The two guard envoys couldn't help but look at Wang Su with a strange expression. The two guard envoys were often dispatched to Raging Wave City for missions, so they had plenty of interactions with Wang Su. The two guard envoys knew that Wang Su was a thrifty person. As a city guard captain, Wang Su was second only to one person in Raging Wave City. However, Wang Su's only hobby was to drink some of Raging Wave City's specialty sea grain tea. He really didn't know what was so good about that seaweed soup-like sea grain tea. It was precisely because of Wang Su's thrifty nature that Raging Wave City's city guard resources were spent on the most important things. Raging Wave City's city guard's overall strength was stronger than a coastal city. One reason was because Raging Wave City was a trade city. The other reason was because of Wang Su's thrifty talent in internal affairs. Wang Su didn't know that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, but he addressed Lin Yuan as brother. He even took the initiative to invite Lin Yuan to his place to drink sea grain tea. This meant that Wang Su treated Lin Yuan as one of his own. Apart from Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple, he only used his identity as the Sky City Lord. Sky City was a newly emerged faction that was superior to the Pinnacle faction, the Miao family's beast creation garden, and it shocked the entire star web. Many star webs in the Radiance Federation had already equated Sky City with the Brahma insect's cage, and the Rhine life forms with the whale ocean trade. In terms of creation master resources, Sky City would order a bronze/epic fae in a high-profile manner every day. Such speed meant that Sky City had at least 2 high-grade Class 4 creation masters overseeing it. It was unknown how many factions wanted to curry favor with Sky City, but there was no need for Wang Su to do so. Raging Wave City's city guard captain was the same as the city lord and was directly under His Majesty Cicada Cry's management. They were all close to His Majesty just like him and the others. Even if it was for the sake of He's reputation, Wang Su just didn't need to find trouble with Lin Yuan. There was no need to curry favor with Lin Yuan at all. Could Wang Su and Sky City be cooperating? If that was the case, Wang Su would really have to congratulate Wang Su. Wang Su had built up a relationship with Sky City and the Moon Empress disciple. In the future, as long as Raging Wave City had the resources, it wouldn't need to worry about high-quality bronze phase. The strength of a large city's city guards could drive the city's prosperity, coupled with the opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift. According to His Majesty's plan, the major cities wanted to build mirror cities in the Abyss world and form the Radiance Federation's third world. Once this plan started, each of the 32 major cities would face a shortage of resources for creation masters and phase for the city guards. Everything had yet to start, but Wang Su had built up a relationship with Lin Yuan. Raging Wave City was already one step ahead of the other major cities. It was really good luck that made the other city guard captains envious. Lin Yuan confirmed from Wang Su's words that he hadn't brought any losses to Raging Wave City. Since returning from the Divine Wood Federation, Lin Yuan hadn't been idle. He still had a lot of things to do here. This time, after returning to the royal capital, he had to intervene in the Blood Oath Extreme duel between Sky City and the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden as the Moon Empress disciple. He also had to wait for Sun Ningxiang and her grandmother to visit the mansion. Lin Yuan already had the Desolation Bloodline Fey Golden Wing, which required dragon liver, phoenix blood and pure wind elements to nurture. Lin Yuan had the Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearls produced by the Celestine Elemental Shellfish, so he didn't need to search for pure wind elements. However, Lin Yuan still had no clue about the dragon liver and phoenix blood. Lin Yuan planned to call Long Tao and Li Xian to ask about the situation when he returned. Chapter 1349. Lin Yuan had come to Raging Wave City to see if he had caused any losses to the city. He had no intention of staying there. Lin Yuan smiled and shook his head in response to Wang Su's warm invitation. I still have a lot of things to do here. Since Big Brother Wang Su called me brother, I'll call you Big Brother Wang too. Big Brother Wang, I've troubled you with the trouble I caused this time. We previously agreed on a deal to nurture 200 steel spike iron muscles. In order to express my apology to Raging Wave City, I'll give Big Brother Wang 50 high-quality bronze/epic phase of various types after nurturing the 200 steel spike iron muscles. Wang Su was subconsciously delighted when he heard Lin Yuan's words. 50 bronze/epic phase of various types would be provided to the Raging Wave Guard. It would be enough to greatly improve 50 of the Raging Wave Guard's outstanding warriors. But before Wang Su could feel the joy in his heart, Wang Su suddenly reacted. Lin Yuan's words were to express his apology by providing 50 bronze/epic phase to the Raging Wave Guard for free. These were 50 bronze/epic phase. An ordinary bronze/epic phase would cost at least 30 million radiance dollars at the auction. A high-quality bronze/epic phase would cost between 5 million to 10 million radiance dollars at the auction. In order to express his apology, Sky City's City Lord had provided a total of 2 billion radiance dollars in resources to the Raging Wave City. Such a huge amount of resources was equivalent to an entire month of the Raging Wave Guard's military expenses during the active phase of the Dimensional Rift. Then he thought about how Lin Yuan had led His Holiness Cicada Cry's disciple, Gao Feng, to Raging Wave City to take over the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss, so that Wang Su might have a relationship with Gao Feng. Wang Su's dissatisfaction towards Lin Yuan because of the huge wave immediately dissipated like the dark clouds under the blazing sun. Brother, the Raging Wave Guard appreciates your kindness. The people of Raging Wave City will thank you when they know. Speaking of this, Wang Su laughed mischievously and coyly. When Lin Yuan saw Wang Su like this, he immediately thought of Wang Su's expression when talking about cooperation with him. Lin Yuan's heart stirred and asked tentatively, Brother Wang, are you trying to cultivate more steel spike iron muscles? Wang Su was originally thinking about how to talk to Lin Yuan. After all, the order of 200 steel spike iron muscles was already very big in Wang Su's opinion. Wang Su was really afraid that Lin Yuan would think that he was trying to take advantage of Lin Yuan's misfortune. In Wang Su's opinion, if a spirit chi professional were to look for a creation master to nurture a fey, even if the reward was sufficient, they would still be the one requesting. This deep-rooted thought was deeply engraved in everyone's heart. Lin Yuan taking the initiative to mention it made Wang Su feel less awkward. That's right, brother. 200 steel spike iron muscles really can't meet the requirements of the Stormy Wave Guards. Our Raging Wave City wants to pass through the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift and build a parallel city in the Abyss world. I have already told you about it. Very soon the Stormy Wave Guards will expand. 200 steel spike iron muscles are not enough for us. Brother, just do me a favor. I'll give you 5 law origin crystals for the steel spike iron clam you cultivated previously. Now, for every additional one you help me cultivate, I'll give you 6 law origin crystals. Upon hearing Wang Si's urgent tone, Lin Yuan thought to himself, it seems that the development of the Abyss world doesn't just excite those factions. All the major factions want to go to the Abyss world to make a fortune. Even the city lords and city guard chiefs of the major cities feel great pressure. In order to expand the city guards, the major cities must be racking their brains for high-quality bronze phase. The cooperation between Lin Yuan and Wang Si was not a one-time deal. There were many benefits to cooperating with a major city, and it could help Lin Yuan quickly collect law origin crystals. Therefore, Lin Yuan intended to make a long-term deal with Wang Si. Big brother Wang, our Sky City still has a lot of spirit liquids stored. It's my duty to contribute to the Stormy Wave City. See how many steel spike iron muscles there are left in the Stormy Wave City. If there aren't too many, our Sky City can take them all. As for the price, we'll go according to our previous agreement. 5 law origin crystals will do. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Wang Si no longer just regarded Lin Yuan as his brother in his heart. Wang Si wished he could drag Lin Yuan to drink blood wine with him and become sworn brothers with different surnames. However, Wang Si could only think about it. After all, Wang Si was the captain of the Stormy Wave Guard. It wasn't necessarily a good thing to be so close to the leader of a force. Lin Yuan's words of being able to contribute to Shocking Wave City made Wang Si's heart feel warm. Wang Si remembered Lin Yuan's attitude towards Shocking Wave City. Since Lin Yuan said it so openly, Wang Si didn't continue to be coy. Wang Si calculated the gap between the Stormy Wave City and the steel spike iron muscle and said, our Stormy Wave City needs at least 5,000 steel barbed iron muscles. Every member of the expanded Stormy Waves Guard needs to be equipped with steel barbed iron muscles. Moreover, the steel spike iron muscles are easy to raise. I'm thinking of hoarding some as rewards in the future. Ever since Wang Si had mentioned Raging Wave City's gap against the steel spike iron muscles, he had never thought that Lin Yuan would be able to take over all of Raging Wave City's gaps. After all, 5,000 steel spike iron muscles were too many. However, Wang Si didn't expect Lin Yuan to agree so readily after hearing the quantity he mentioned. 5,000 steel spike iron muscles is no problem, but the nurturing period this time will be a little longer. Every time 200 steel spike iron muscles are nurtured, I'll order people to deliver them to Stormy Wave City. The interval between each delivery will be 10 days. What do you think, Big Brother Wang? From the moment Lin Yuan agreed, Wang Si was stunned. Now that Lin Yuan said that 200 steel spike iron muscles could be delivered to Stormy Wave City in 10 days, Wang Si was pleasantly surprised. Expanding the Stormy Wave Guard was not something that could be done in a day or two. Every member of the Stormy Wave Guard had to undergo a strict selection process in order to completely expand the Stormy Wave Guard. In order to completely expand the Stormy Wave Guard, it would take at least half a year to a year. During this half a year to a year, Sky City would deliver 600 steel spike iron muscles to Stormy Wave City every month, which was enough to fulfill the order. Wang Si couldn't be more satisfied. Lin Yuan only needed a few minutes to nurture a bronze/epic steel spike iron muscle in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If Lin Yuan wanted to work hard for 5,000 steel spike iron muscles, he would be able to complete it in slightly more than a month. The reason Lin Yuan didn't deliver the goods a month later was that he had to train in the Divine Wood Federation. He couldn't nurture phase in the Spirit Lock spatial zone for the whole month like before. On the other hand, it was still hard to believe that he could nurture 5,000 steel spike iron muscles in slightly more than a month, even if he used the excuse of having potion reserves. Chapter 1350. This large order took more than 8 months to complete, which was just right. At the same time, this cooperation with Raging Wave City could bring Lin Yuan 25,000 Law Origin crystals. Coupled with the Law Origin crystals that Lin Yuan had previously hoarded, he would not have to worry about Princess's food for a long time. Lu Jie was already used to Lin Yuan's method of cooperation. However, this was the first time the 2 guard envoys behind Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan's method of cooperation. Their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. To become a guard envoy in the spirit guards, one had to be at least an emperor-class expert. In addition, the spirit guards were out on missions all year round. Even ordinary spirit guards were very knowledgeable, let alone guard envoys. However, Lin Yuan's method of cooperation had truly shocked the two guard envoys. Even if these two guard envoys were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never seen anyone so easily finalize such a large order. Was this the foundation of a Class 5 Creation Master's disciple? After discussing the cooperation with Wang Su, Lin Yuan's trip to Raging Wave City came to an end. Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and the Mother of Bloodbath boarded the Slaughterer Butterflies back and headed for the royal capital. Lin Yuan spent about 3 days in Raging Wave City to deal with the matter. During these 3 days, as the matter fermented, the Star Web was in a complete uproar. As more and more people learned about the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden gained more and more anti-fans. These anti-fans with low EQ would scold the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden and show a look of watching a good show. Those with high EQ would loudly praise the Blissful Sea clan for being a veteran faction beating a top faction. Those with low EQ would think that the Blissful Sea clan had been secretly developing and had the strength to become a top faction long ago. However, the Blissful Sea clan had been too low-key and had not revealed their strength. Those with high IQs were all secretly praising Sky Castle and becoming its die-hard fans. Through this battle, Sky City, which had not appeared for long but had always been at the heart of the struggle, would become a top faction. In addition, almost all of the Star Web reporters' reports pushed Sky City to the Brahma insect cage, the whale ocean trade, and the Rhine life forms. The endless reports made those low-IQ Star Web netizens start to realize the reality. He no longer praised the Blissful Ocean tribe. Instead, he became a hardcore fan of Sky City. The public opinion on Star Web was almost one-sided in favor of Sky City. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had taken all the blame for all the negative comments. Under normal circumstances, if a force interfered in the Blood Oath battle between two forces, it would be criticized by others. If the Miao family hadn't helped the Zheng family in the Beast Creation Garden, Sky City wouldn't have helped the Sea of Bliss clan without being affected by public opinion. The current situation could be said to be the result of the Miao family's own doing. Ever since Sky City had appeared, it had been dominating the Star Web's territory rankings. It was inevitable that other factions would be envious of it. Those covetous forces were all jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards waiting outside Sky City. They were waiting for an opportunity to take a bite out of Sky City. Sky City's counterattack made all the factions and Star Web members secretly shocked by Sky City's toughness. At the same time, he knew that Sky City was not a force to be trifled with. Now no one dared to have such thoughts. The Miao family was a top-notch faction that relied on creation masters. Miao Zhinshan had been the Miao family head for dozens of years and was fawned upon everywhere he went. When Miao Zhinshan attended gatherings held by some top-notch factions, he was often fawned upon. Miao Zhinshan, who had always been held in high regard, was very concerned about how others viewed him. He couldn't bear to hear any negative things. Miao Zhinshan couldn't help but log onto Star Web to look at the public opinion on Star Web for the past 2 days. The public opinion nearly angered Miao Zhinshan to death. How much did Sky City spend to hire fake reviewers to set up the Black Miao family's Beast Creation Garden? Miao Zhinshan searched the Star Web for 3 hours but couldn't find any kind comments about the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Miao Zhinshan felt that he had lost all his face. Over the past 2 days, many of the precious items in Miao Zhinshan's study room had been smashed into pieces. Miao Zhinshan had been thinking about when the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, which was at its peak, had started to decline. All of this seemed to have started when Miao Zhua and Miao Qi were chased out of the Nix assembly. At that time, more than half of the top-notch factions had given up on their long-term cooperation with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden wasn't the only one that suffered losses when these top-notch factions gave up on their long-term cooperation with the Miao family. These top-notch factions also needed to look for new creation master resources. The decisions made by the top-notch factions often had to be discussed by the faction's core members. This meant that at that time, many of the top-notch factions were no longer optimistic about the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Rome wasn't built in a day. The Miao family's beast creation garden had declined so quickly because Miao Zhua and Miao Qi had offended Lin Yuan and Wang Fuxiang at the Nix assembly. The relationship between the Miao family's beast creation garden and Sky City had started because of the Du Immortal garden. The Miao family's beast creation garden had always been coveting the Du Immortal garden. As a result, Sky City and the Du Immortal garden had cooperated and solved the Du Immortal garden's predicament. During the discussion at the meeting, the Miao family's beast creation garden decided to suppress Sky City. In fact, they had indeed suppressed Sky City. The Miao family's beast creation garden used the power of a top-notch faction to prohibit spiritual ingredient suppliers from supplying to Sky City. Spiritual ingredients were the foundation for enhancing phase. Without spiritual ingredients, even if Sky City had creation masters, they still wouldn't be able to concoct elixirs. In the end, Sky City didn't seem to be affected. They would still send out fate letters every morning. They would order a bronze/epic fey every day without a break. At that time, the Miao family's beast creation garden had only suppressed Sky City in terms of business. The conflict hadn't reached the point of no return. At the end of the day, the conflict between the Miao family's beast creation garden and Sky City had started because Zheng Kaiyuan wanted to have a blood oath duel with Sky City. If Zheng Kaiyuan hadn't wanted to have a blood oath duel with Sky City, Old Han and Old Lu wouldn't have died. At the thought of this, Miao Zhinshan wished he could dig up the Zheng family's ancestral grave. However, the Zheng family's ancestral grave was on the Green Mountain behind Indigo Azure City's old mansion. That place had already been taken over by Sky City. He couldn't dig it even if he wanted to. For the past 2 days, the Sea of Bliss and Sky City hadn't made any moves. Miao Zhinshan was extremely disdainful toward the Sea of Bliss. Without Sky City's help, the Sea of Bliss was nothing in front of the Miao family's beast creation garden. The Sea of Bliss didn't have the ability to find trouble and take over the Miao family's beast creation garden's resources. However, Sky City had been staying in the dark, making Miao Zhinshan feel uneasy. Chapter 1351. It felt as if Sky City was hatching a big plan. 3 days ago, Miao Zhua had called Lin Yuan, and Lin Yuan had said that he would help settle the Miao family's matter after he was done with his work. Lin Yuan's attitude showed that he did not take the Miao family's beast creation garden seriously and did not take Miao Zhua's request seriously. Miao Zhinshan was rather dissatisfied with this. When he saw the negative public opinion on Star Web, Miao Zhinshan always thought that if Lin Yuan had helped to resolve it earlier, he would not have been able to do so. The Miao family's beast creation garden would definitely not be in such an awkward situation. At that time, the Miao family's beast creation garden might not be able to restore too many ordinary people's impression and reputation through Lin Yuan. However, on account of Lin Yuan, those top factions would definitely cooperate with the Miao family's beast creation garden as much as possible. The Miao family's beast creation garden was backed by Purple Bamboo Garden. Due to the conflict between Miao Qi and Wang Fuxiang, Purple Bamboo Garden could no longer be relied on. However, forming a relationship with Lin Yuan was no different from relying on the Radiant Moon Palace. Miao Zhinshan had been planning this all along. Unexpectedly, Lin Yuan was still busy for the past 3 days. If this dragged on, the Miao family's beast creation garden would be completely wiped out. When a person's reputation was bad to a certain extent, even if they had the backing of a god, they would not be able to stop others from despising and spitting on them. The more Miao Zhinshan thought about it, the angrier he got. He smashed a porcelain bottle with a picture of a persimmon on it on the ground. The porcelain bottle fell to the ground and splashed with a cold white light. The light reflected off the shattered porcelain vase made Miao Zhinshan's expression look particularly ferocious. Miao Zhua and Miao He, who had been standing next to Miao Zhinshan without daring to make a sound, shuddered in fear. Miao Zhua and Miao He looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. 3 days ago, Miao Zhua and Miao He still had the intention to fight for power. Miao Zhua and Miao He, who had been by Miao Zhinshan's side for the past 3 days and had witnessed Miao Zhinshan losing control of his emotions several times, did not even dare to breathe loudly. Not to mention showing off to Miao Zhinshan. Now he spoke less and did less. It was already a great thing if he didn't make any mistakes. Miao Zhua looked at Miao He, blinked and pouted. He wanted Miao He to comfort Miao Zhinshan. Miao He rolled his eyes when he saw Miao Zhua's expression. He then lowered his head and started digging his nails. Seeing that Miao Zhua was still looking at him, Miao He pointed at the phone in Miao Zhu's pocket. Back then you rushed to contact Lin Yuan and he promised to help, but he never fulfilled his promise. Don't think I don't know that Grandpa is worried about this. Since you were the one who made the call, you should be the one to extinguish the fire. Miao Zhu took a deep breath when he saw Miao He's actions. At first Lin Yuan had said that he would forgive her and no longer care about her offense at the Nix assembly. Her grandfather's attitude towards her had obviously improved, and he doted on her even more than Miao He. Miao Zhu had sensed this. Miao Zhinshan had raised Miao Zhu as the young patriarch since he was young, and he had stayed by Miao Zhinshan's side for more than a decade. After spending more than a decade together, Miao Zhu had long since seen through what kind of person Miao Zhinshan was. Miao Zhinshan liked smart people. Ever since he was young he had always been smarter than Miao He. This was his strength. Moreover, Miao Zhu was certain that even if his talent was crippled, Miao Zhinshan's feelings for him would still be more than Miao He's. But at the Miao family's internal meeting, someone had clearly pointed out that the Miao family's decline had started with the Nix assembly. Miao Zhu's heart skipped a beat when this matter was brought up during the meeting. As expected, Miao Zhinshan's attitude towards him became cold again. Miao Zhu was relieved when he saw that Miao Zhinshan treated him coldly and did not think much of Miao He. Someone had to step up at a time like this. If Miao He didn't step up, then he could only do it himself. Miao Zhu looked at the broken pieces of porcelain on the ground and pondered for a long time before speaking. Grandfather, I will give the Moon Empress disciple Lin Yuan a call to urge him. Hearing Miao Zhu's words, Miao Zhinshan immediately turned around and said, Zhu, immediately contact Lin Yuan and find out his intentions. Our Miao family's beast creation garden has already expressed our goodwill. Is Lin Yuan waiting for our beast creation garden to give us some resources first? If that's the case, tell Lin Yuan and we will prepare the resources immediately. When Miao Zhu heard Miao Zhinshan's words, he knew that Miao Zhinshan was a little too anxious. She had always been careful when calling Lin Yuan. Some things could be asked indirectly but not directly urged. If Lin Yuan was anxious and did not care about the Miao family's matters, then the Miao family could only pray for themselves. However, Miao Zhu obviously did not dare to mention this to Miao Zhinshan, so he could only agree. Yes, grandfather. I will make a call immediately. After saying that, Miao Zhu picked up his cell phone and dialed Lin Yuan's number. Lin Yuan, who was on the slaughter butterfly's back with Lu Jia and the mother of Bloodbath, heard the phone ring. He took out his cell phone and saw that it was Miao Zhu calling. It seems that the Miao family's beast creation garden is anxious. However, while the Miao family's beast creation garden was anxious, he wasn't. The matter had only been brewing for 3 days. Although the growth of the power of faith had stagnated, it had not decreased by many times. This meant that the heat could still burn for a while and there was no hurry to add more firewood. Therefore, in order to maximize his power of faith, Lin Yuan would not help the Miao family's beast creation garden solve its predicament so early. He picked up the phone and pretended to be impatient. What's the matter? Miao Zhu had been thinking about how to ask Lin Yuan. However, when he heard Lin Yuan's obviously unhappy tone, Miao Zhu did not dare to speak for a moment. After pausing for a long time, Miao Zhu looked at his grandfather's eager eyes and hardened his heart. Lord Lin Yuan, you promised to help me solve the problem for the Miao family's beast creation garden. The Miao family's beast creation garden thinks that you are giving face to the Miao family's beast creation garden. We should prepare some supplies to thank you. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan deliberately sounded even more impatient. What? Did Sky City cause trouble for the Miao family's beast creation garden? Miao Zhu's heart tightened. What did he mean? Could it be that Lin Yuan had already spoken to Sky City's city lord? Had he asked Sky City's city lord not to target the Miao family's beast creation garden? If that was the case, things would be troublesome. What his grandfather cared about was not as simple as whether the Miao family could survive. He also cared about the Miao family's reputation in the future. If Lin Yuan had really solved the Miao family's beast creation garden's predicament, Sky City would not cause trouble again. This storm of public opinion would never stop. Miao He said cautiously. I don't know if Lord Lin Yuan has seen Star Web, but there are a lot of people discrediting my Miao family. Lord Lin Yuan, can you come forward and make a stand so that the fake reviewers from Star Web Sky City can shut up? Chapter 1352. Lin Yuan let out a cold snort. As the city lord of Sky City, How could he not know that Sky City had hired a fake army? It seemed like the Miao family's beast creation garden was planning to use his identity to cause trouble. That would not do. It seemed like it was time to give the Miao family a warning. When Miao Zhuo heard Lin Yuan's cold snort, his straight back immediately broke out in a fine sweat, drenching the silk undershirt on his 100-beast new seedling attire. Before Miao Zhuo could figure out what he had said that had angered Lin Yuan, Miao Zhuo only heard Lin Yuan's cold voice over the phone. Your Miao Zhuo beast creation garden is quite bold. You actually want to use my identity to cause trouble. Do you think you can do whatever you want to me, or do you think the Radiant Moon Palace will let you do whatever you want? I originally wanted to help your Miao family's beast creation garden with a small favor, but I didn't expect your beast creation garden to be so ambitious. If it is so easy to climb to the top by climbing up a high branch, Radiance's faction should stop operating and struggling. Miao Zhuo listened to Lin Yuan's words with trepidation while looking at his grandfather's impatient eyes. He only felt that he was in a dilemma. Just as Miao Zhuo was thinking if he should turn on the hands-free mode and let Miao Zhinshan listen, he heard Lin Yuan say, "I can step in. It's not impossible for me to do it, but show me the sincerity of the Miao family. Don't think about using my identity to cause trouble. Otherwise, Sky City won't have to settle the score with your beast creation garden. I'll be the first to not let your beast creation garden off." After saying that, Lin Yuan hung up the phone. Lu Jie and the mother of Bloodbath stood beside Lin Yuan and listened carefully to every word he said on the phone. After Lin Yuan hung up the phone, Lu Jie said with a smile, "Lin Yuan, the fish has taken the bait?" Lin Yuan nodded. The fish had indeed taken the bait. He had given Miao Zhuo a warning just now and also given the Miao family hope. The Miao family's beast creation garden was a huge faction, so they should be weighing what to do. The Miao family's beast creation garden should be weighing what to do. Miao Zhinshan had been waiting for Miao Zhuo's results. After hanging up the phone, Miao Zhuo felt that he could not stand steadily because he was too nervous and afraid. At this point, success or failure was no longer up to him. Miao Zhuo took a deep breath and recounted his conversation with Lin Yuan to Miao Zhinshan in detail. Let Miao Zhinshan, the head of the Miao family, decide what to do. Miao Zhinshan was originally very impatient, but when he heard the conversation between Miao Zhuo and Lin Yuan, Miao Zhinshan was also so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Indeed, he had been dreaming too much. He wanted to use Lin Yuan's identity to gain power. Even if Lin Yuan did not pursue the matter, would the Radiant Moon Palace not pursue the matter? Rather than facing the Moon Empress' thunderous methods, it was better to let Miao Zhuo die in the hands of Sky City. Miao Zhinshan immediately thought to himself. The negative public opinion on Star Web in the past few days had messed up his mind and actually made him have designs on Lin Yuan's identity. Miao Zhinshan did not dare to panic. After listening to Miao Zhuo's retelling of his conversation with Lin Yuan was obviously angry. It would take some time to calm down. Miao Zhinshan planned to wait for 2 days before personally calling Lin Yuan. As for the Miao clan's sincerity, what right did the Miao clan who had lost their power have to bargain? Give Lin Yuan everything he wanted. Only by being obedient would they be able to hug Lin Yuan's thigh. When he returned to the mansion, he found that Wen Yu was not there. He immediately dialed Wen Yu's number and found out that Mystic Moon had called her to the Radiant Moon Palace. Upon hearing that Lin Yuan had returned to the mansion, Wen Yu said softly, "Young master, I just arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace this morning. Master said that she would help me increase my strength over the next few days. When I'm done improving my strength, I'll return to the manor directly." Recently, the public opinion on Star Web has been fermenting very quickly. In order to expand the public opinion, I specially asked Tian Ningning to contact some Star Web reporters. Pay these Star Web reporters to report on the blood oath battle between the Miao family's beast creation garden and the Blissful Sea clan. These Star Web reporters' reports should be placed on the various Star Web sections. It should allow more passers-by to pay attention to this matter. Among these Star Web reporters, there are a few famous reporters that Tian Ningning has contacted. The price of a famous reporter is 20,000 Radiance dollars per article. I've spent over 500,000 Radiance dollars in total. After saying that, Wen Yu paused for a moment before continuing. Young master, throughout the whole process I didn't mention how these Star Web reporters would report, nor did I mention which faction we are. I only asked these Star Web reporters to write truthfully. Many reporters have accurately dug out the shadow of Sky City behind this blood oath extreme battle. Upon hearing Wen Yu's words, Lin Yuan could not help but slap his thigh. Why didn't I think of using the Star Web reporters to expand the public opinion? Sky City had helped the Blissful Sea clan win the Blood Oath battle. It was extremely secretive and the veteran factions and top factions could see something. However, these veteran factions and top factions were not necessarily willing to leak out the information they had. It was because of these Star Web reporters digging that Sky City had surfaced in front of the Star Web netizens so quickly. Lin Yuan felt that it was worth it even if he spent 50 million Radiance dollars to find these reporters, let alone 500,000 Radiance dollars. The enhancement of the power of faith was equivalent to enhancing a kind of power that Lin Yuan grasped. Lin Yuan was willing to spend more on the enhancement of power. Moreover, Wen Yu had said that she did not reveal her identity when she had made an appointment with the Star Web reporters, so that these Star Web reporters would not be too biased toward the financial backer. Every report pursued objectivity and fairness to attract the attention of people with high IQs. Wen Yu's approach was simply amazing. Before Lin Yuan could praise Wen Yu, Mystic Moon's voice came from the other end of the phone. Apparently, Mystic Moon had answered Wen Yu's call. Your Highness, I was thinking of calling you, but it just so happened that when you called you, so I informed Your Highness. The Moon Empress is in seclusion and I just came out. The Moon Empress Purple Moon was released from the Crescent Moon Sai card. Did Your Highness encounter any trouble? Lin Yuan did not hide anything and told Mystic Moon everything that had happened on the island outside Raging Wave City. Although Lin Yuan was independent, he could not hide such things from his master, the Moon Empress. And he would definitely tell his master, His Majesty, when he returned. The Mermaid Ray had the idea of killing His Majesty's disciple in the Radiance's sea region, which was equivalent to trampling on the Radiance's dignity and publicly tearing up the Radiant Sea Treaty. For a federation, dignity was priceless, and the defense of dignity should set off a reign of terror. Lin Yuan would bear the grudge between himself and the Imperial Mermaid Ray. As a Radiance person, Lin Yuan should go all out for the grudge between the Radiance and the sea species. Moreover, Lin Yuan was one of the protagonists of this incident. Chapter 1353. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Mystic Moon's eyes sank. Mystic Moon took a glance at the Moon Empress seclusion chamber and started to weigh the pros and cons. Under normal circumstances, even if the Moon Empress was in seclusion, he would inform her immediately. However, this seclusion was too important to the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress, whose lifespan had been replenished, was currently using this seclusion to wash away the hidden injuries that she had suppressed in order to break through. After this seclusion, the Moon Empress would be completely gone, and her strength would be restored to its peak. If he were to disturb the Moon Empress at such a time, he might cause her to suffer from a backlash due to being distracted. Xianyu clenched her fist, and her silver hair instantly shone with a dazzling silver luster. Every strand of his silver hair seemed to have transformed into a crystalline horn. Xianyu's strength had finally reached that level. Now that Xianyu's strength had reached this level, she was already qualified to take the test to become an overlord. Once she passed the test of the 13 majesties of the Radiant Sect, she would become the 14th majesty of the Radiant Sect. However, according to Hui Yao's rules, the relationship between the two majesties could not be that of subordinates. Compared to becoming the 14th lord of the Radiant Sect, Mystic Moon wanted to be the Moon Empress Moon Envoy more. In fact, when one's strength reached Xianyu's level, even if Xianyu was not her majesty, he still had the right to convene a court meeting. Since the Moon Empress had yet to come out of seclusion, Mystic Moon should take responsibility for Lin Yuan's matter. Moreover, this battle involved experts at the peak of Immortal realm. It wasn't a small matter anymore. Your Highness, leave the matters regarding the sea race to me. When the Moon Empress comes out of seclusion, I will inform the Moon Empress about this matter. Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, Lin Yuan nodded. Uncle Xian, I'll have to trouble you. When you need me, just let me know. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Mystic Moon didn't immediately send a message to the other 13 highnesses to convene the Nyx assembly. This matter involved Ji Chongdeng's disciple and he and Night Leaning Moon's disciple Lu Jia. Ji Chongdeng, that old bastard. Mystic Moon felt disgusted just thinking about him. Ever since she opened her eyes, Xianyu had never seen such a good bootlicker. Asking Mystic Moon to contact Ji Chongdeng was no different from forcing her to eat canned herring. As for Night Leaning Moon, the grudge between her and Xianyu was even greater. Decades ago the two of them had disliked each other, but when they thought of Lin Yuan and Lu Jie's relationship, they could not help it. Xianyu decided to inform Night Leaning Moon first before convening the royal court's meeting. Thinking of this, Xianyu immediately dialed the number that she had saved but had never called before. Xianyu wanted to ask for Night Leaning Moon's opinion on the matter regarding the Sea Tribe, but she didn't know that Night Leaning Moon, who was in the palace, had already gone crazy. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Imperial Court, could not suppress her sorrow and killing intent, causing the entire Radiance Imperial Court to be covered in a layer of chill. The old man sat on the recliner and said to Night Leaning Moon with a sorrowful gaze, "Qingyue, only Cicada Cry and I knew about Sayu back then. Not even Iron Prison knew about it. The Moon Empress doesn't wish for us to tell others, and we don't dare to let you know either." Night Leaning Moon's body couldn't help but tremble when she heard the old man's words. Then she started to laugh bitterly. Miserable laughter rang out from within the royal court, adding a touch of eeriness to the cold atmosphere that was originally tainted by the royal court. "It's fine if Shiyu hid this from me. You know what Shiyu means to me, but you also hid it from me. Shiyu's lifespan is less than 3 years. Less than 3 years." Night Leaning Moon's voice was so hoarse that she was choking with sobs. Night Leaning Moon couldn't imagine how a stubborn and strong-willed person who stood at the peak of the world could see the end of her life with just a glance. How powerless would it be to be unable to turn back? Although Night Leaning Moon had a guess before coming, it was just a guess after all. Now that the truth was in front of her, Night Leaning Moon couldn't accept or believe it. Cicada Cry's heart sank when he saw Night Leaning Moon's expression. Night Leaning Moon and Cicada Cry were not Radiance envoys of the same generation. However, during the Radiance envoy selection back then, Cicada Cry had specially guided Night Leaning Moon as an assessment judge. At that time, Cicada Cry knew that Night Leaning Moon was a person with a strong sense of justice and was very fair. These were the qualities that Cicada Cry saw in Night Leaning Moon. However, as Night Leaning Moon progressed from a Radiance envoy to a holiness, the Spirit Guards had to carry out missions in 32 major cities all year round. They had to fight against dimensional rifts and sudden dangerous incidents with the city guards. As a result, Cicada Cry and Night Leaning Moon became the two people who had the deepest relationship among all the holiness. After decades of understanding, Cicada Cry knew that behind Night Leaning Moon's sense of justice and fairness was a deep obsession. This obsession came from the Moon Empress. Everyone had two sides, and the holiness was no exception. Cicada Cry found it hard to imagine what kind of madness would erupt behind Night Leaning Moon's extreme sense of justice and fairness when the obsession in her heart was broken. Thinking of this, Cicada Cry said, "Leaning Moon, for the Moon Empress lifespan she even took out the geocentric jade milk. I personally sent it to the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress is trying to ascend to her life providence. Using the geocentric jade milk to increase her lifespan by 1 year, the full Moon Empress might have a chance." Night Leaning Moon's eyes narrowed. Her eyes were like a starry sky that was engulfed by darkness. Suddenly, a trace of light broke through. However, Night Leaning Moon didn't completely believe Cicada Cry's words. After Cicada Cry finished speaking, Night Leaning Moon waved her hand without saying a word. A black crystal suddenly appeared in Night Leaning Moon's hand. After Night Leaning Moon took out the black crystal, the entire Radiance Royal Court was immediately covered in a pitch-black night. In the dark night, there seemed to be several sinister masks hidden. Cicada Cry sighed. He knew he couldn't fool Night Leaning Moon. Night Leaning Moon had summoned the sacred source lifeform Dark Sky Prajna, because she wanted him to summon the sacred source lifeform, Intent Dispelling Wind. Once he summoned the Intent Dispelling Wind, he would be exposed. In the Radiant Moon Palace, he had given the Intent Dispelling Wind to the Moon Empress. Night Leaning Moon could tell at a glance. Now that Night Leaning Moon's attitude was so obvious, he had no choice but to summon the sacred source lifeform, Intent Dispelling Wind. Cicada Cry took a deep breath, and a few gusts of cool wind surged around him. The cool wind blew through the dark night, making it less dark. It was as if the cool wind had appeared and dispersed the dark night. However, the moment the cool wind appeared, the dense murderous intent in the night was plated with deeper despair. In the darkness, Night Leaning Moon waved her hand, and the black crystal disappeared. At that moment, Night Leaning Moon's face was pale and expressionless. Despair and grief faded from her eyes, and she looked like a walking corpse. Cicada Cry had never seen Night Leaning Moon like this. After Night Leaning Moon asked her question, she turned and walked out of the royal court. Chapter 1354. The old man leaning on the reclining chair said in a deep voice after seeing Night Leaning Moon's state. Qingyue, you are now a person who has taken in a disciple, you still have to make plans for your disciple. Since you know about this matter, we will ask the Moon Empress for her opinion in a few days. If the Moon Empress is willing, we can simply convene a royal court conference. When Night Leaning Moon heard the old man's words, a complicated warmth appeared on her expressionless face. Night Leaning Moon had accepted Wuxia as a disciple largely because the Moon Empress had accepted Lin Yuan as a disciple. The scene of the Moon Empress carrying the heavily injured Lin Yuan shocked Night Leaning Moon. Night Leaning Moon didn't dare to believe that with the Moon Empress temperament, she would personally carry someone. At that time, Night Leaning Moon also had thoughts of accepting a disciple. It just so happened that Wuxia and Lin Yuan had gone through thick and thin together, and he was also part of the Radiance 100 sequence. The 30 minutes he had exchanged for outside Indigo Azure City was enough to prove Wuxia's character. Night Leaning Moon decided to accept Wuxia as her disciple. From Wuxia and Lin Yuan, Night Leaning Moon had a feeling that she and the Moon Empress had reincarnated. It could be said that before Night Leaning Moon accepted Wuxia as her disciple, she didn't have any feelings for him. However, after this period of interaction, it was undeniable that Wuxia had become Night Leaning Moon's deepest shackles apart from the Moon Empress. Night Leaning Moon knew that the Moon Empress wouldn't allow the other majesties to know that she only had 4 years of lifespan left. Moreover, after eating a spirit material that could increase one's lifespan, if one wanted to increase one's lifespan, they would have to eat a spirit material that was of a higher grade. Now he had even taken out a treasure like the geocentric immortal milk. What else could be more precious than the geocentric jade milk, a higher grade spirit material that could increase one's lifespan? Just as the old man mentioned Wuxia, Night Leaning Moon's heart rippled. Night Leaning Moon's phone rang. Night Leaning Moon took the phone and saw the caller ID. Night Leaning Moon's brows immediately furrowed, and then she eagerly picked up the phone. As a Moon envoy, Mystic Moon must know the Moon Empress' true situation. Night Leaning Moon didn't know why Xianyu would call her, but she had a lot of questions to ask Xianyu. After picking up the call, before Xianyu could say anything, Xianyu, who was on the other end of the line, picked it up. Night Leaning Moon had already taken the initiative to ask. Black Moon, tell me, is the Moon Empress lifespan only left with 4 years? Mystic Moon already felt awkward calling Night Leaning Moon, but this concerned Wuxia's safety and Hui Yao's reputation. Wuxia decided to communicate with Night Leaning Moon first. In the end, Night Leaning Moon's sharp question made Xianyu dumbfounded. How did Night Leaning Moon know about this? It was obvious that the Moon Empress didn't tell Night Leaning Moon about this. If that was the case, Night Leaning Moon wouldn't have asked him again. Based on Mystic Moon's understanding of Lin Yuan, it was even more impossible for him to leak this matter. When Night Leaning Moon said that the Moon Empress lifespan was 4 years and not 3 years, it meant that Night Leaning Moon had included the geocentric jade milk when calculating the Moon Empress lifespan. It seemed that Night Leaning Moon had learned about this from the old man or the cicada. Without Lin Yuan's lifespan rat, Mystic Moon didn't dare to imagine how he would feel after learning that the Moon Empress only had 3 years left to live. It could be said that Lin Yuan had given the Moon Empress herself, Song Yu, and the entire Radiant Moon Palace a new life. This matter was of great importance, and it was impossible for Mystic Moon to divulge it. Even if Night Leaning Moon asked him. Even if this matter was to be revealed, it could only be revealed by Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress, the 2 masters of the Radiant Moon Palace. The Moon Empress didn't have much lifespan left, and Mystic Moon knew about it from Cicada Cry. Since Night Leaning Moon understood the situation from the cicada, it didn't matter whether he admitted it or not. Mystic Moon muttered to himself for a long time and softly acknowledged. Upon hearing Mystic Moon's acknowledgement, Night Leaning Moon couldn't help but reveal a sorrowful expression again. Night Leaning Moon had a sorrowful expression. However, she spoke to Mystic Moon in an unusually cold tone. Why did you call me? Mystic Moon was rather displeased with Night Leaning Moon's tone. However, he still told Night Leaning Moon the news that Lin Yuan had told him in full detail. Originally, Mystic Moon wanted to ask for Night Leaning Moon's opinion, but Night Leaning Moon hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Night Leaning Moon's eyes instantly turned pitch black. This time Night Leaning Moon waved her hand again and summoned the black crystal that she had just summoned. However, this time when the black crystal appeared, it wasn't the Radiance Royal Court that turned into night, but the entire main world. At noon the sun was bright and clear and there were no clouds in the sky. The Radiance Federation's working hours were 6 hours. Every ordinary person only needed to work for 6 hours a day before they could get off work and rest, enjoy life and live a very comfortable life. On the contrary, Spirit Chi professionals had to work day and night to upgrade phase. Capable people did more work, and this was probably the truth of this world. When these ordinary people got off work and went home, they would see the sun setting in the west, but there weren't any clouds in the sky. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. There wouldn't be any burning clouds to see today. At that moment the darkness suddenly rippled in the sky. There wasn't any time for people to react, and the sky had turned into pure black. The black was deep, but it wasn't the end. More and more ink piled up, giving the darkness a deep and serene color. Under the dark sky, apart from the Moon Empress who was in seclusion, the other Radiance monarchs looked up at the sky at the same time. They felt strange. What's going on with Night Leaning Moon? Night Leaning Moon was such a self-restrained person. How could she publicly activate her sacred source life form and use its power to affect the world? This didn't seem like something Night Leaning Moon would do. Mystic Moon was speechless after Night Leaning Moon hung up on him. The reason he made this call was to get in touch with Night Leaning Moon and ask for her opinion on the matter. Who would have thought that Night Leaning Moon would hang up right after he finished speaking? What does Night Leaning Moon mean? Even if she has an opinion about me, she should know when. Before Mystic Moon could feel depressed, he saw the dark sky in the Radiant Moon Palace. Seeing the sudden darkness, Mystic Moon's eyes narrowed. Night Leaning Moon's sacred source life form was already at the pinnacle of 10 star. When a sacred source life form reached the peak of 10 star, it could display its ability to affect the entire world. If the complete dark sky wisdom was used at full power, it could bring about a huge disaster to the world. The dark sky wisdom could make the sky stay in a state of eternal darkness. This state only needed to be maintained for a week. Without the nourishment of sunlight, weaker plant species phase would wither. These weaker plants that needed to photosynthesize were often the cornerstone of the ecosystem. It could be said that the dark sky wisdom could completely destroy the natural ecosystem. Could it be that Night Leaning Moon was angry when she heard that the sea race tore up the Radiant Sea Treaty and planned to kill Lu Jia on the island outside Raging Wave City? Chapter 1355. Impossible. Given the Moon Empress personality, it was possible for her to show off for her disciple. However, based on Mystic Moon's understanding of Night Leaning Moon would never do that. Soon Mystic Moon thought of a possibility. If Night Leaning Moon knew from Cicada that the Moon Empress only had 4 years of lifespan left, everything would make sense. Night Leaning Moon had activated the sacred source life form, Dark Sky Prajna. It was obvious that she did not intend to resolve the issue of the Imperial mermaids and mermaids publicly tearing up the Radiant Sea Treaty through peaceful means. Instead, she intended to use force. The darkness in the sky was still accumulating, and the enormous power of night seemed to have plunged the entire origin world into a world of darkness where there was no daylight. The people of the various continents of the origin world summoned their glowing phase or spiritual ingredients and looked at the sky uneasily. They thought that the end of the world was coming. In the Azure Federation, the experts of the Azure Federation's 10 great families walked in the void. All of these powerful beings had a part of their bodies that was emitting a deep blue luster. The deep blue luster passed through their spirit chi clothes and evolved into all kinds of divine spirit items. The experts in the void looked at the sky with solemn expressions, all of them pondering over the matter. One of the elders emitted an azure luster that formed an elegant and nimble leopard-shaped phantom outside his spirit chi clothing. The elder thought to himself. Lin Lin followed Lan Sun to the Radiance Federation. They're already halfway there. The Radiance faction's Night Empress suddenly changed the weather. What is her intention? Is the Radiance faction going to make a big move? At that thought, the elder revealed a worried expression. It was unknown whether the elder was worried about the Radiance faction's big move or Lin Lin's safety. Among the ancient castles with gilded walls and tiles, there was an open-air temple made of pure white stone. Outside the temple was a huge plaza. The plaza was paved with large pieces of sunlight stones. These sunlight stones covered the temple with a layer of sacred light. The temple's 16 pure white stone pillars were carved with various patterns with golden lines. The patterns on each stone pillar were different. These patterns seemed to have a special meaning that could make people involuntarily immerse themselves in it. It was as if each pattern on the stone pillar was a climbing path. However, the paths carved on these stone pillars seemed to have been cut off at the waist, making it impossible to walk on smoothly. The stone pillars shone upon each other as if they were complementing each other. Behind each stone pillar stood a red statue. However, the red statue behind one of the stone pillars had already been smashed into pieces. Broken red statues were scattered around the white stone pillars, making the clean and dust-free temple seem very disharmonious. Inside the temple there were 16 seats and 48 prayer mats. 48 white-robed elders sat on each of the 48 prayer mats. The 48 white-robed elders all raised their heads to look at the darkening sky outside the temple. On the 16 chairs in front of him sat 14 figures with different postures. These 14 figures were all dressed in red robes, and each of their robes was embroidered with intricate golden patterns. The 14 figures in red robes looked at the sky thoughtfully. One of them, a lazy woman with her hair tied up in a bun, said casually while caressing the jewels inlaid on the chair. Changing the weather. I wonder if it's the phoenix from the heaven-blessed mansion or that cold woman, Night Empress Hui Yao. As soon as the woman's voice fell, a calm voice spoke. There's a strange aura hidden in the weather. This is obviously Night Empress Hui Yao's ability. Nana, your eyesight has regressed. Every time your world calamity phaseless beast reincarnates, your mind will always become unclear and unclear. When the woman heard this calm voice, she glanced at the golden-haired middle-aged man sitting not far from her and said with a playful expression, "You wouldn't have dared to say these words to me before my faceless beast reincarnated. Qian, your courage is always just right." When the golden-haired middle-aged man heard the lazy woman's words, he snorted. "Nah, this isn't the first time you've experienced my courage." When the lazy woman heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words, the hand that was caressing the jewels suddenly exerted force. Her dark red nails pierced the jewels, producing a metallic sound. The woman giggled. After laughing enough, she didn't continue Qian's words. Clearly, the relationship between the two wasn't happy. At that moment, a plump man rubbed his big belly and said, "The power of the night is gathering above our Freedom Federation's Southwest Sea region. If I remember correctly, Du Miao gave that place to the Imperial Mermaid clan of the Ocean Empire's 8 clans. It seems like the Imperial Mermaid clan has somehow offended Night Empress Hui Yao." As the plump man spoke, he squinted his eyes and smiled gently. His squinted eyes were filled with shrewd calculations. When Nana heard the plump man's words, she looked at one of the empty chairs and said, "Du Miao has negotiated with the Imperial Mermaid clan. Now he simply stays with the Imperial Mermaid clan all day. He doesn't even participate in the monthly worship ceremony at the Divine Temple of Liberty. If that cold woman, Night Empress, is only targeting the Ocean Empire's 8 clans, I don't think we need to intervene in this matter. The Ocean Empire's 8 clans are cooperating with Du Miao. We didn't get any benefits. If there's a problem, Du Miao will naturally take it." After Na finished speaking, she slowly took out a hair clip covered with jewels from her red robe. She used the hair clip to pin the hair that covered half of her face into a bun. Then she closed her eyes and continued with the worship ceremony. It was as if the anomaly in the sky did not exist. When the other 13 people heard Na's words, a few of them had a playful expression and a few of them had a thoughtful expression. In any case, they all had their own thoughts. In the end, the 13 people closed their eyes like Na and performed the worship ceremony. At that moment, flickering shadows appeared in the dark sky. These shadows finally formed a mask in the sky above the Freedom Federation's Southwest Sea region. Within the mask there was a black snake coiling around the mask. The snake's tail wantonly passed through the holes of the mask. Suddenly, the mask turned dark purple and the black snake melted into the mask. The 2 holes on the mask turned into 2 huge black snake eyes. Immediately after, the mask cracked open like a door. Dark shadows poured out from the cracked door into the sea like a black waterfall. In an instant, the entire sea region was dyed black. The sea region, which was originally full of vitality, was instantly devoid of life. The entire sea region seemed to have turned into a prison weaved by darkness. It imprisoned any living thing and banished all living things into the endless darkness until their lives withered away. At that moment, the ink-stained sea suddenly set off a huge wave that was tens of thousands of meters high. Within the huge wave, a dark red shark let out a violent roar towards the sky. Chapter 1356. The shark's roar caused the entire ink-like sea to be suffused with the color of blood. Before the shark's 10,000-meter wave had even fallen, thousands of huge red waves that pierced the sky had already formed in the sea. They pierced straight into the ink-colored dome. The thousands of huge red waves that reached the sky struck the dark purple mask, causing cracks to appear on the mask. However, these cracks caused the cracked door of the mask to become larger, causing more shadows to pour out of the mask like a waterfall into the sea. At this time, the giant shark that leaped out of the sea had already transformed into a tall and burly man. The man wore a red armor, and a majestic aura that could dominate the four seas shot out from his eyes. But at this moment, this majesty was mixed with a thick sense of resentment. The sea below him had lost all signs of life, and there was not a single creature that could breathe above the sea level of 1,000 meters. Moreover, the dense power of night was still seeping into the deep sea. The red-armored man opened his mouth, and the garlic clove-like sharp teeth in his mouth made the red-armored man look abnormally ferocious and terrifying. The man spat out a blood-colored torrent of thousands of shark from his mouth. The blood-colored torrent once again crashed into the purple mask in the sky. Thousands of blood-colored shark crashed into the purple mask, causing more and more cracks to appear on the mask. Finally, the mask turned into an illusion. The mask in the sky disappeared, and there were no longer shadows pouring out of the mask's open door into the sea. However, the disappearance of the purple mask did not cause the night to become lighter. After the blood-colored shark torrent broke through the purple mask, these shark illusions merged into the sea. They spun their bodies with all their might, creating a blood-colored sea tornado. The blood-colored tornado absorbed the power of night in the sea, causing the ink-colored sea to gradually fade away. At this time, 4 or 5 giant shark leaped out of the sea, transforming into human forms and arriving beside the burly man. A youth with short blood-colored hair said angrily, "Second Master, all the arrangements we made in the sea during this time, except for the ones at the bottom of the sea, have been destroyed. This sea has been infected by the power of night, and it is impossible to recover in a short period of time. We can't stay in this sea any longer, or else even eating will be a problem." The Imperial Mermaid clan of the 8 clans of the Sea Monarch was a clan of spiritual creatures in the sea. Members of the Imperial Mermaid clan had a huge appetite. Each time they ate, they could devour a large number of marine fays in the sea. By now, all living creatures in this area had been affected by the dark power and turned into night mist. If Imperial mermaids and mermaids continued to live in this area, they would have to starve. The blood-armored man ignored the red-haired youth's words. Instead, he turned to the older man beside him and asked, "Old Five, are there any casualties in the clan?" The man addressed as Old Five, by the red-armored man replied, "Today, apart from a small number of members of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan who were sealed in the sea territory, most of them are in the Mermaids Emperor's palace at the bottom of the sea. There should be no casualties." As he spoke, Five looked up at the night sky before continuing. "Second Master, Night Empress Hui Yao used a complete sacred source life form to change the weather to target the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. She has publicly broken the Hui Hai Treaty. The Radiant Sect must give us an explanation. Otherwise, Second Master, why don't we gather the other 7 Sea Monarch clans and flood the Radiance continent?" The red-armored man glared at Old Five. "Nonsense. If you want to mobilize the water of the 4 seas to flood the Radiance continent, we, the Imperial Mermaids, can do it ourselves. But what's the use of flooding the Radiance continent's 32 cities if we can't kill all of their experts?" As he spoke, the red-armored man's expression became fiercer and fiercer. At the same time, there was an obvious fear in his fierceness. The sea territory was twice the size of the land. It could be said that the sea occupied at least 70% of the world's treasures. Land life forms could not compete with sea life forms, but there were exceptions to everything. One of them was that it was easier for humans to become creation masters and raise the sacred source life forms star level. This advantage of humans made the factions that were formed by Fays envious. As for the favored spirits, they were not included in this comparison. Once they awakened their bloodline, the favored spirits could trigger a weather phenomenon and were favored by heaven and earth. They had to rely on the heavens to feed them. This was an advantage that humans in ordinary phase could not compare to. It was also the reason why the Blessed Dojo had always been so outstanding among all the factions in the world. The reason the 8 clans had signed the Radiance Sea Treaty with the Radiance Federation, which was on land, was because the Radiance experts had sacred source life forms that were at least 10 stars. By relying on a complete sacred source life form to change the weather, they could attack everything that was enveloped by the weather phenomenon. This kind of attack had a very strong deterrent effect. As long as a federation or a major faction had such an expert with a complete sacred source life form, they would receive the respect of other federations and major factions. The 8 clans also had such means. However, as the 8 clans were all born from phase, it was a shame to say that the number of experts from the 8 clans that could trigger a weather phenomenon was only about the same as the number of Radiance experts who had signed the Radiance Sea Treaty. If they really flooded the Radiance continent, the complete sacred source life forms would trigger a weather phenomenon together and attack the Imperial mermaids. Unless the experts from the 8 clans joined forces to resist, no one from the Imperial mermaids would survive except for the eldest brother. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Imperial Court, had a cold expression after her mask was destroyed by the blood torrent. She then snorted. A beautiful ghost face was tattooed on the left side of Night Leaning Moon's face. On the beautiful ghost face was a small snake with black scales that glowed with purple light. At that moment, Night Leaning Moon's temperament under the black veil suddenly became coquettish. The instant the ink snake slithered into Night Leaning Moon's hair, Night Leaning Moon's black pupils suddenly turned into purple vertical pupils. Night Leaning Moon softly chanted, "Dark Sky Prajna, Darkest Night 100 Ghosts Parade Activate." Following Night Leaning Moon's elegant and cool cry, the dark horizon of the Freedom Federation's Northwest Sea region suddenly rippled with a bewitching purple color. The purple light rippled in the dark night, making it even more dangerous. As the purple light rippled, the red-armored man suddenly realized that the purple mask was like stars in the night sky. Upon seeing this scene, the red-armored man immediately crouched on the surface of the sea. Immediately, countless blood-colored sharks drilled out of the red-armored man's palm. These sharks covered the surface of the sea as if they were holding up a layer of shield on the surface. At the same time, the red-armored man anxiously said to the red-haired youth, "Go to the mermaid's imperial palace and find me. Explain the situation to me. This is the Freedom Federation's sea territory. I don't believe that Du Miao, who has been a guest in the mermaid's imperial palace for the past few days, will not come to help." When the red-haired youth heard the red-armored man's words, he immediately transformed into his original form and headed for the mermaid's imperial palace in the depths of the sea. Chapter 1357. At this moment, the red-armored man had already assumed a defensive stance. However, the purple masks that appeared in the sky didn't crack open like before and pour into the sea. All of a sudden, the purple masks shattered into pieces. The night sky was indescribably strange under these purple fragments. These purple fragments scattered in the night sky, finally gathering together to form a small purple 9-story pagoda. There were several dark purple prajna masks on each level of this 9-storied pagoda. On the prajna mask there was a small ink-colored snake crawling. The purple pagoda set off a purple wave in the night sky. Then the first, second, and third floors of the purple pagoda lit up. The first layer, the third layer, and the third layer. The black snakes swimming on the wisdom mask drilled into the mask at the same time. The hollow eyes of the wisdom mask instantly turned into snake pupils. Then strange snapping sounds rang out in the sky. Following these 3 snapping sounds, the night sky became even darker. Large amounts of indescribable black objects poured out of the opened 3-story pagoda. These indescribable black objects emitted strange laughter. These laughter entered the red-armored man's ears. The red-armored man felt a sense of dread, as if he had been exiled to endless darkness. The red-armored man hurriedly gathered his thoughts. Just as he was about to make a move, the sea suddenly turned a murky blood red. The red sea spun, forming a bloody vortex that stretched as far as the eye could see. Slowly, a millstone appeared in the middle of the vortex. The millstone spun, emitting a dull grinding sound. The blood-colored millstone propped up a blood-colored barrier on the surface of the sea, welcoming the indescribable black objects that the purple demon pagoda had sent down. The instant these indescribable black objects landed on the blood-colored millstone's barrier, they seemed to be absorbed by an indescribable spatial power. The grinding sound of the millstone intensified, as if the millstone was grinding these indescribable black objects into dregs. For a time, the blood-colored millstone and the purple demon pagoda in the sky were in a deadlock. A man even more muscular than the red-armored man appeared on the blood-colored millstone. Beside the man was a beautiful man with long orange hair and a red robe. After the orange-haired man appeared, he raised his head and glanced at the purple tower that had 3 floors. Then he quietly played with the pair of golden red fruits in his hands. The man on the blood-colored millstone turned around and said to the orange-haired man, "Du Miao, I've agreed to all the conditions you mentioned before. We can be considered allies now." The Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation have always been sworn enemies, and the enmity between them is even greater than the enmity between the Imperial Mermaid clan and the Imperial Ray clan. The phenomenon caused by my blood sea millstone is in the sea region. It doesn't have much effect on the phenomenon in the sky. I'm not afraid of Radiance's Night Empress in a face-to-face battle, but if I want to tear apart this long silent night, I still need your help. The orange-haired man revealed a warm smile. However, despite this warm smile, the orange-haired man did not agree to the man's request. Yao I Du Miao have never helped anyone for free. My allies are no exception. Before, you agreed to my request because I also agreed to your Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids' request. This is a deal between us, a deal that is beneficial to both parties. It isn't difficult to tear apart this long silent night. If I help you, what can you give me, Yuao? Yuao didn't mind Du Miao's words. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids had a lot of dealings with the Freedom Federation. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved to the Freedom Federation's sea region. If they wanted to cooperate with the Freedom Federation's majesty, they would focus on benefits. As long as they could satisfy the Freedom Federation's majesty's expectations for benefits, everything could be discussed. The Freedom Federation was completely different from the Radiance Federation. It was possible to cooperate with the Radiance Federation's majesty, but the premise of this cooperation must be beneficial to the Radiance Federation. If they were to cooperate with the Radiance Federation's majesty that would harm the Radiance Federation's interests, it would likely lead to a war. In terms of overall strength, the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation were comparable. However, the Radiance Federation was undoubtedly more feared by the Ocean Empire's 8 imperial clans than the Freedom Federation. This was the essential difference between placing a pair of chopsticks separately and placing them in a bundle. Yuao, who had cooperated with Du Miao before, knew Du Miao's expectations for benefits. Yuao immediately gave a base price that was in line with Du Miao's expectations. I can give you the use of the floating island whales in the sea region that our Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids rule. The premise is that you, Du Miao, have the ability to make these floating island whales voluntarily agree to help you transport the goods. Upon hearing that, the corners of Du Miao's good-looking mouth curled up into a 45-degree arc. Your Imperial Mermaids are really a competent Ocean Empire clan. The floating island whale is a cardinal treasure of the Ocean Empire, and it has become a bargaining chip for your Imperial Mermaids to negotiate for cooperation. I'm cooperating with your Imperial Mermaids because I like this point of your Imperial Mermaids. As soon as he finished speaking, an orange flaming whip appeared in Du Miao's hand. After this whip appeared, the air around it seemed as though it was burning. Du Miao held the whip and didn't target the strange purple pagoda in the sky. Instead, he swung it toward the night sky far away from the demon pagoda and chanted, "Tear it apart, lava abyss whip." A flame shot out from the swing of the whip and rushed into the night sky. The night sky seemed to have become the fuel for this flame, burning fiercely. Under the burning flame, a hole suddenly appeared in the night sky. The setting sun in the west emitted a remnant light that suddenly lit up the silent night. After the night sky was torn open and the sun was revealed, the sunlight made the flame burn even more fiercely. More of the night sky was burned by this flame. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Royal Court, looked at the flame burning in the sky, and her eyes suddenly bloomed with a bloodthirsty aura. Du Miao, 10 years ago, you were the one who held me back and prevented me from fighting alongside Siue. Otherwise, with me burning my lifespan first, Siwa wouldn't be able to burn her lifespan again. The black crystal in Night Leaning Moon's hand suddenly split into two under the activation of her spiritual power. At that moment, the purple demon pagoda in the Radiance Federation's Southwest Sea region also split into two. One of the purple demon pagoda crashed toward the flame. A large amount of black matter intertwined with the flame, preventing it from continuing to burn the power of night. However, the splitting of the purple demon pagoda also reduced the pressure on the Blood Sea Millstone. At present, Yuao was commanding the Blood Sea Millstone to counterattack the purple demon pagoda. Lin Yuan had been paying attention to the weather anomaly ever since it had started. From Lujia, he knew that this night sky was the power of the Spirit Guard's chief guard Night Leaning Moon's sacred source life form. This was not the first time he saw such an ability to change the weather. Chapter 1358. He did not know why the chief guard of the Spirit Guards wanted to change the weather. However, since he knew that the night was Night Leaning Moon's handiwork, Lin Yuan naturally had to stand on her side. Feeling the sun's suppression on the night, Lin Yuan turned to the Mother of Bloodbath beside him and asked, "Mother of Bloodbath, you've awakened the favored spirit. Mother of Bloodbath, you have awakened the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline. You can communicate with the sun. Can you reduce the sun's influence on the power of night?" The Mother of Bloodbath did not answer immediately. If the chief guard of the Spirit Guards was fighting an enemy, then this level of conflict was obviously not something it could intervene in. However, according to Lin Yuan, it could only reduce the sun's influence on the power of night. The Mother of Bloodbath felt that it could do it. After trying to communicate with the sun and feeling for a while, the Mother of Bloodbath said to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, I'll communicate with the sun. Lin Yuan, I'll communicate with the sun. The sun and I will be connected by a sun chain. As long as this sun chain is not forcefully cut off or isolated, I can stop the sun from shining." His master's bright moon high sky and twin moons high sky were equivalent to changes to the heaven and earth phenomena. However, in terms of impact, the change from day to night was obviously greater than the bright moon high sky and twin moons high sky. The Mother of Bloodbath had the confidence to say that it could stop the sun from shining because it had inherited the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline's ability to control the sun's light. Although the Mother of Bloodbath was only at Myth 3, its ability to control the sun's light was no weaker than a sacred source life form at its peak. Of course, the premise was that the sun chain that the Mother of Bloodbath used to communicate with the sun would not be cut off by other experts. Once it was cut, the Mother of Bloodbath would lose its connection with the sun. Only when the Mother of Bloodbath's strength reached a certain level could it make the sun chain strong enough to communicate with the sun. At the same time, the Mother of Bloodbath could rely on its own strength to protect the sun chain. When Lin Yuan heard the Mother of Bloodbath's words, he did not immediately let it communicate with the sun. Instead, he asked the Mother of Bloodbath, "If an expert cuts off the sun chain that separates you from the sun, will your safety be affected?" Upon seeing that Lin Yuan was worried about its safety, the Mother of Bloodbath felt warmth in its heart. The Mother of Bloodbath smiled under the night sky and said softly to Lin Yuan, "Severing the connection between me and the sun will at most prevent me from communicating with the sun. It won't threaten my safety. Unless the expert who released that ball of flame triggered the celestial phenomenon and directly attacked me. This is the Radiance Federation's royal capital. If someone really wants to trigger a celestial phenomenon in the sky above the royal capital, the crowns in the Radiance Federation will not agree." As it spoke, the Mother of Bloodbath's hair lit up with a faint light. The delicate light spots shuttled back and forth between the Mother of Bloodbath's hair, adding a touch of gentleness to its cold temperament. Immediately after, these spots of light acted as a catalyst, causing all the Mother of Bloodbath's hair to light up. Finally, a crown made of sunlight was placed on the Mother of Bloodbath's head. The evening sun was dim. Although the light of dusk shone through the night and lit up the world, it still made the world shrouded in darkness hazy. In the dusk, the Mother of Bloodbath was like the rising sun on earth. With Lin Yuan's return from Faraway Manor as the center, the light emitted from the Mother of Bloodbath's hair illuminated half of the royal capital and into the Radiance Royal Court. As the Mother of Bloodbath circulated its spiritual power, the setting sun seemed to sense something and suddenly lit up with a dazzling light. It was as if it was not dusk but noon. The sun descended, and a chain made of light fell on the Mother of Bloodbath, making it look like the sun goddess while bathed in sunlight. Just as everyone watching the celestial phenomenon thought that the sun was going to help the orange flames drive away the night sky, the sun's brilliance suddenly converged. Du Miao did not use his lava abyss mantle whip to attack the purple demon towers in the sky. Instead he chose to attack the night sky. He hoped to tear open the night sky to reveal the sun and use the sun's heat to enhance the flames. At the same time he relied on the sunlight and the power of night to offset each other and weaken the power of night. However, the sun's light was converged and no longer offset the power of night. Du Miao's plan was tantamount to failure. At that moment, there was only one way to end this silent night, and that was to face the two purple demon towers in the sky. However, Du Miao's mind was not on the purple demon towers. Instead it was on the descending chain. Du Miao could not help but think about it. There were only so many sacred source life forms that had reached the complete stage in the world. Pinnacle experts belonged to different factions and most of them had fought before. The Radiance Federation did have an eminence that could use a sacred source life form to form a celestial phenomenon related to the sun. This eminence did have the ability to stop the sun from shining. However, none of this was done by the Radiance Federation's His Holiness. The descending chain was too thin and small, and it was enough to see that the person who made the sun descend the chain was not very strong. This kind of strength was not worthy of a 9-star sacred source life form. Therefore it was very likely that a favored spirit had caused the sun to descend the chain. Didn't the sun descend several chains in the Radiance's direction a few hours ago? Du Miao had also noticed the sun phenomenon. At that time, Du Miao was certain that a favored spirit had awakened its bloodline in the Radiance's direction. Everything had happened too coincidentally, and the descending chain was very likely the work of that favored spirit. However, if it was really the work of the favored spirit, then things would be troublesome. Everything that had happened was a grudge between the Radiance Federation and the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. It had happened in the sea region near the Freedom Federation, so it was reasonable for him to intervene. However, if it involved the favored spirit, he might be viewed as an enemy by the Heaven-Blessed Mansion if he intervened. It was known that the Heaven-Blessed Mansion was very protective. Previously, a medium-sized federation had wanted to detain and capture a favored spirit that had yet to reach Diamond. In the end, that favored spirit was unwilling to be restrained and burned its bloodline to trigger a celestial phenomenon. Not long after, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion came knocking and used a forceful stance to force the medium-sized federation to hand over the favored spirit. At the same time, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion's master had caused the medium-sized federation to have no harvest for 3 years as a punishment. This matter had shocked the entire continent. It was also this matter that pushed the Heaven-Blessed Mansion, which was formed by the favored spirit, to the heart of the struggle. The Heaven-Blessed Mansion might have been living in seclusion, but when something really happened, none of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion's master was easy to get along with. Du Miao had always prioritized benefits when doing things. No matter when, he would only be willing to do things when the returns were greater than the effort. There was indeed a favored spirit in the Heaven-Blessed Mansion that could trigger the sun's power. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.